Hello and welcome to episode 238 of the Random Nintendo Podcast. I'm Jason.
And I'm Angel. That was a long pause, Jason. That's usually not...
I assumed you were going to edit that
lucky.
out, but I guess now people are going to be like, what are you talking about? But, you know,
Oh, now I have to edit it in.
Yeah, and I have to
leave it in.
And we have a third person here who has yet to speak.
And I'm Gomi.
Oh, name change. All right. Well, anyway, how's everyone doing?
Woo! I hope the mic was able to pick that up. I just opened up a sugar-free monster.
Did not hear a thing. The power of your noise filter, whatever it's called.
RTX voice,
Yeah,
baby.
welcome to...
There it is.
Yeah, seriously, welcome to season, I guess this would be 23? Every 10 episodes of the season.
Oh.
I decided that right now.
Oh, okay. So translating, that means we're somewhere around episode 230, coincidentally 238, or not coincidentally, but specifically. Wow. This is a rough intro. I'm just going to jump in. You know what? I'm proud of this episode's title. Hey, now you're an all-star. It's, of course, in honor of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, as we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, don't they say get your game on right after, which is
even better, yeah.
In these circles, go play. That is another thing we do. We play games.
When you
we're
said,
saying...
don't they say get your game on, I was thinking of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX intro.
Yeah.
Like, well, that would make this really confusing if you were thinking of Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead of Smash Mouth. But yeah, we're calling this episode that because we've got we got Super Mario 3D All Stars out now, so we're gonna be looking back at Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy through this kind of new All Star lens, and really seeing how they hold up after all these years, especially against one another. And then Angel, I know you went even older than that with Donkey Kong Country 2 and Mario Super Picross and stuff like that, which are now part of the Switch Online library. So we're going to have impressions of those as well. But there is some new stuff too this episode. On the news front, Nintendo's actually been keeping pretty busy with the third partner showcase featuring not one but two Monster Hunters. And there's the shadow drop of a new Kirby Fighters, or a new push for Animal Crossing New Horizons. So we're going to talk about all that, plus a bit of a 3DS memorial service at the end of the show in light of that guy is now officially discontinued. The run of the 3DS is over. So, all those things, timestamps at Untitled.com, or better yet, just stay on for the full ride if you just want to hear it all through. And I think we're going to jump right in, Mario, with what we've been playing, which is Mario, the 3D Mario All-Stars compilation, which I think I might actually be the only one who followed through on buying it, right?
Yeah, I think we were all down for buying it beforehand, or before it came out, and then... Now we're here.
Yeah, because when we talked about it last episode...
That's my story.
A great story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. But when we talked about it last episode, after the Direct, the Anniversary Direct, we had basically all of us at different levels of, very interested to begrudgingly going to buy it. And I feel like, I guess you guys dropped off. So what happened? Why'd you back out of buying it?
Me, I honestly didn't see the value in it. Especially considering the only one that I'd probably play from beginning to end was Sunshine, and as great as not Sunshine, Galaxy, and as great and as much as I love Galaxy, it just wasn't worth the $60. I also love Sunshine, and of course I have plenty of love for 64, but I've already played those games to death, and I think Sunshine was the only one that I played once, beat the main story, and never looked back on it. So, yeah, it just wasn't worth the $60.
And Angel?
Yeah, I just didn't really see the value in it. The only one I would really want it for was Sunshine. I did play Mario Galaxy and 64 to death. But, okay, I know, I'm just paraphrasing what Kevin said. Essentially, it was
It's a solid answer.
It's the same... Essentially, it's the same idea, except I kind of put more emphasis on Sunshine because... While I was kind of just copying Kevin, everything is true. I did play Mario 64 and Galaxy to death. I 100%ed Galaxy, which means you have to get 120 stars twice, once as Mario and once as Luigi. And because I kept playing Mario 64 when it came out on the Wii, when I had my chance of getting it again on the Wii U, sometimes revisiting it on the N64 itself, I was just always able to play it. And Sunshine, I played it once in a while, because the GameCube is probably the console I revisit the least, but it's actually my most accessible older console because it's always right next to the TV. It's just not connected. So, right off the bat, even though I did want to revisit Sunshine because that's the one I've played the least of all three of them, they're all just so readily accessible that it doesn't seem worth paying $60. Like, there is convenience, but there is also, like, I can only circumvent convenience so much. I mean, yeah, I guess circumvent, I guess the hassle of putting a console together for so long before it becomes, I think, the fact that I've replayed these enough times overall, I guess, kind of overshadowed the convenience that I would be getting from it. It just didn't seem worth it.
Right.
Because, yeah, I wouldn't be buying it for the games. I'd be buying it for the fact that it's a 35th anniversary collectible. Mm-hmm. And as a 35th anniversary collectible, I don't really see it as something worth getting. The 25th anniversary one for the Wii, I barely saw some value in that one as a collectible, but I still didn't even get it. And just looking at those two from what they offered and just up front, the Wii one came with a really nice looking case that it came with those cardboard cover on top of the plastic typical box art. Mm-hmm. You even got a little booklet. I mean, it was bare bones, but you had a booklet that gave you some history or gave you some kind of something. And the disc was nice, even though it was literally just like a copy-paste ROM of the Super Nintendo game, not even the full one.
Right. The original, not the release, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to the game, it boots up the Super Nintendo one, it even still has the Super Nintendo controllers when it tells you how to play.
Yeah.
It's that unapologetically simple of a port that they did. Mm-hmm. This one, not debatably, but I mean, they did put some effort into it, mm-hmm. but I would say it's the minimum amount of effort, just so people can't say that they didn't.
Yeah.
Because the stuff they fixed, I feel it's something that I would go oh, that's neat, but if Super Mario 64 is still going to look the way it does, mm-hmm. I don't really think it mattered that the M is now sharper or that the Boo House's images are now crisper. That's not going to make the game better. It's just, yeah, it's kind of like a Olimar's helmet cracks in Smash Brothers kind of detail. It's cool when the whole package is already full of these great little details that it's just one of those extra things you could point out. But because there really isn't a lot of those, in fact, there's if we're going into that level of detail, there's a bunch of that level of issues, new issues that are in the game that kind of make it feel like it almost cancels out. Apparently, just some new visual issues in Sunshine just kind of make the game feel sloppy. Coming from Nintendo specifically, because usually their games are really, really polished. When you find bugs in those games, you usually have to go out of your way to do these bugs. And that's mainly Sunshine and on. I mean, Mario 64 thrives on bugs, and the ones that arguably make the game more fun for speedrunners or revisiting the game, like the reverse long jump glitch, that got removed because it's based on another version of Mario 64.
Mm-hmm. The Rumble Pack version, yeah.
But because there's no history mode, there's no booklet, there's no anything, it's just those three games.
And 170 songs that you can only play on the Switch for some reason.
Yeah. And because I don't know why Nintendo doesn't release their songs on some kind of streaming service for purchase. I mean, since I own these games, then I've had all these songs already downloaded. And I mean, they're also, all the ones you would want to listen to are also in Smash Bros. Ultimate. It's kind of funny how Smash Ultimate, or even the last couple Smash Bros. Games, I sometimes feel are a better celebration of Mario's anniversary than even the Mario anniversary game itself. There's probably more history nuggets of information and brawl than there is in all of the Smash 64 collection or the Smash 3D collection.
There's certainly some
just from the trophy info.
Yeah, there's certainly some deeper cuts they reference, even in items and little level nips and tucks and
yeah, all the descriptions. So I don't know. It just comes across as feeling here you go, just take it. I mean, all these three games are great, but I feel if you already played all three games as much as I have, you probably won't have a reason to get it. Even with nostalgia, I mean, I'm definitely, I don't know, I find it kind of weird that still sometimes that I didn't buy it, but I don't know, every day that goes on just kind of feels like more of the correct choice. Why support that? If I don't need it, it's fine. But for someone that has never played it before, like a friend Nigel, I think this is awesome because these three games are really great to play for the first time.
It is really
Mario 64.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that game might be weird to go through the first time. I could definitely see some areas feeling very janky and dated and maybe not as fun for someone that doesn't know what's coming or can be like, oh, this is how it was. But you know, we got through it as kids. At least like going through Sunshine and especially Galaxy for the first time will definitely be really great for them. But, you know, I could just plug in the Wii U and literally experience 2 of those games on that console. Mm-hmm. And Sunshine is like right there. So even the widescreen or the crisper resolution isn't much of a selling point, at least for me.
Yeah.
It seems like it was for a couple people as well, but yeah.
It is interesting how, because there are a couple things you said there that sort of caught my attention. One is your point about how bare bones it is. It is weird. Like, as someone that actually owns it, so I've seen how bare bones it is. It is weird how it is and also at times isn't as bare bones as you would think. Like, you know, you mentioned there's only the 3 games in Music Player. Yeah, that's definitely bare bones. And then there's some weird choices like, you know, they didn't bother to re-record Flood's voiceover at the Star Mario Sunshine to include the name of the buttons. So, like, in the GameCube, you press the R button or whatever, and this one you press the ZR button. So all they do is they have him talking, and he's like, you can press the button to shoot water, and it says it on screen, but they like didn't replace the voice acting. They just muted him for a second, which is odd and very like kind of un-Nintendo. But at the same time, like they did some stuff that I was playing. I'm like, why did this feels like more effort than it was worth. Like, why recreate the entirety of Mario Sunshine's UI in HD instead of just like up-res it? Like, it's almost jarring compared to the rest of the game and how much crisper it looks. Or like, you know, Mario Galaxy, they kept the motion controls. They also had button controls. There's no need necessarily for them to do touchscreen support for collecting star bits, but they did it anyway. And then, like, at the same time, they did stuff like they changed the aiming for Flood in Mario Sunshine. It's not inverse anymore. Now up is up and down is down, which I've got to be honest with you was incredibly confusing to my muscle memory at first.
That sounds horrible.
Well, the problem is it feels like Splatoon now. So, like, my muscle memory, because, like, Splatoon, it's up and down, right? So my muscle memory was you playing it like Splatoon style. If you do it with gyro, I think it is, isn't it? So with basically what's happening.
I mean, with gyro, it's gyro. So
but basically what's happening is like the way I play Splatoon is I do a mix of the stick and gyro. Like I have gyro turned on, but I kind of do half and half. And I was trying to do that with Mario Sunshine for like 30 minutes, and I just like I knew it wasn't right, but I kept trying to do it because Nintendo's basically done the flood mechanic in a modern way with Mario with Splatoon. And then they had the flood mechanic as it was, and then this one's kind of like a weird half and half of the two. So I was just like, what? My brain like could not wrap around it. But it's kind of one of those things like, okay, so they uninverted the controls. Fine, whatever. I get that some of the motifs of how controls used to be in the early 2000s, or even like Lakitu represents the camera in 64, so like it moves like a separate entity, not just like a camera. Like I get that, but if you're going through the effort of adding the changes, why not put a toggle to revert the changes? Like, so even when they're doing things that are a little less bare bones, the implementation of the things they're doing are somehow still the most bare bones version of it. You know what I mean? So it's a really weird package for that reason. Cause like, you know, beyond all the brouhaha about like just the games themselves and is widescreen enough or is up-resing this and not that, like that's an impactful change, the inverse. And it's very weird that they did it without giving the option to undo it. Like, it's not that hard to just flip it back. They had to code it out of it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, they had to code out of that box. Why not just let the box also be an option? So it's weird. But, yeah, to your point, it's definitely, if you've played these before and you have access to them, there isn't as much of a draw for getting it, I think. I do actually have access to all of them. They're still all plugged into my TV. I was actually playing the original Mario Party on
you're
N64
like, if Nintendo says jump, you'll say how high.
Correct. So with that in mind, the thing is, ignoring the value proposition of the collection, I think at the end of the day, you are still getting 3 great Mario games. Whether you feel the need to buy them again or not, take it or leave it. But like there are 3 really good games in here: Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy. So ignoring what Nintendo did, I think what's kind of interesting is we now have all 3 of these games back in the spotlight, back as new releases, quote unquote. And yet one's from 1996, one's from 2002, one's from 2007. And, you know, they age differently. So I'm kind of curious, like, as you guys look at them, and Angel, I feel like you sort of touched on this, like Mario 64.
For 6 more months, but yeah.
What?
For 6 more months, but yeah.
Yeah, for 6 more months, yeah. But they're in the spotlight for the holiday season. So I'm kind of curious, like, first of all, what's your guys' favorite among those? And do you think the aging actually, like, change your perception? Like, for example, you know, maybe Sunshine was your favorite and then Galaxy just blew it away because it's just better. Like, where you guys kind of rank them or stand on them?
in reverse order.
So Galaxy, Sunshine, 64?
They got better as each one came out.
Right, so Galaxy, Sunshine, 64.
It's typically how I feel about most of the Mario games.
No, you got it wrong, Jason. He said they get better as you go forward.
Right, so I'm saying his number 1 is Galaxy, his number 2 would be Sunshine, his number 3 would be 64.
I thought you were
yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah, no, I read calendars correctly, don't worry. What about you, Kevin? Like,
I'd probably
is
say
Galaxy yours?
the same.
So, what's kind of funny is when I bought this...
It'd be like a coin toss between Sunshine and Galaxy. Just because, like I said, I did play Sunshine to death back on the GameCube, but I don't know, Galaxy just has that whimsy that not a lot of video games have nowadays.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Except for like Odyssey.
Yeah, I feel like Galaxy and Galaxy 2 always felt like when I'm playing it, you're just kind of getting like, I think I said this word again, but I'm just going to say it again, like unapologetic fun, just pure, simple gaming bliss fun. You're just focused on the platforming, like, and because of that, everything is super tight, everything is polished, everything is, I feel, just fine-tuned to be just the right kind of difficulty for it to be not overly easy, but I mean, the game overall would say is still kind of easy, but it's not so easy that it gets boring. It's just hard enough or easy enough that it's just really fun to run through and get through even as fast or as slow as you want. Mm-hmm. And Galaxy, and Sunshine, I feel, as fun as some levels are, there were a few that kind of feel like a drag to get through, and then there's like a bunch of highs and lows in that game. It's kind of balanced out, but yeah, like the King Boo boss, I'm not really a fan of just because that one is just kind of luck-based. It's just waiting until the lottery works out.
Right.
And there's other kind of just more random stuff like that where you just kind of have to wait, but besides that, also the Bowser battle was just super anticlimactic compared to even 64 and Galaxy. But they're both so great. I think Sunshine was definitely... Overall, the game is much harder to get through than Galaxy is, at least until the very end when you unlock the harder levels.
Sunshine's physics. There's something sometimes.
But that's why they gave you Flood.
Yep.
So you could... Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because you guys are talking about like when you played them in the past, like, oh, I played Sunshine a lot back in the day, or I played 64 way back when, and it's now like the accessibility is different. Like, I think it's interesting what like stands out to me with this collection, having all three of them and switching between them and not like going chronologically or anything, is like it's really interesting to look at the way that like the 3D Marios evolved versus how like the 2D ones did. Like if you look at 3D All-Stars collection and like the original 2D All-Stars collection, that's like the biggest difference between them is like with the 2D Marios, the games didn't really like change. I mean, they changed, but like the variation between Mario 2 having you throw turnips and Mario 3 having an overworld map and Mario World introducing Yoshi, like those are kind of superfluous on top of the fact that at the end of the day, what you have is the exact same type of gameplay. You can play Mario 3, go back to Mario 1, and not necessarily find Mario 1 to be inferior in terms of playability. It's just simpler. You know what I mean? Like they added stuff, but the playability, like the screen doesn't scroll differently in Mario 3 versus Mario 1 versus Mario 2. It's all kind of like you're playing a side scroll and it works. But with the 3D Marios, if you skip back and forth between them, what I found kind of interesting, this is something that I guess I only really got to experience because I am playing them in tandem, is you can clearly see how one basically laid the foundation for the next. Like one trying something one way only to like have a later game sort of course correct or improve on it in such a big way that actually makes the predecessor now feel inferior. Like Angel, you're saying pretty much your hierarchy is the newest to the oldest because each one built on the last one. And like, I love Mario 64. It's one of my top games ever. And I'm having a lot of fun going back to it, but playing it right after Sunshine or Galaxy absolutely shows its age in a way I didn't expect. Like here's a game that at the time had this revolutionary camera mechanic. You're moving in 3D space. You got that little Lakitu guy filming you. You can manipulate the camera in these sort of like lurched directions that, were originally for the N64 C buttons, which is why they're kind of in like chunks and not smooth. But, the camera can snag on things. It can obstruct, it can be obstructed by stuff in the foreground. It doesn't necessarily default to the right perspectives. And that can actually change how you play and how you go through a level. And then, Sunshine comes in and it improves it a little. It now has like control by a stick that's actually free moving and it doesn't get blocked in the same ways. But then you go to Galaxy and there's like, well, what if we don't even do that? Let's remove the camera issue entirely and have these planetoid things that, kind of avoid the issue, or, going even beyond the collection. 3D Land and World had fixed perspectives. Odyssey went back to the free motion camera, but is so much smoother by comparison. And when you think like, oh, what's my favorite Mario game? What's the best Mario game? You don't really think about the fact that like there is a rose-colored glasses of sorts to it, where like when you go back, what happens is it makes 64's camera just not feel good, even though at the time it was very good. And this, I think, is distinctly a problem with how 3D games evolve to meet new technologies over 2D games, or at least the Marios, where like, yeah, they could get prettier and that, yeah, you could put like artificial layers of new gameplay, but like ultimately outside of graphics, nothing really changed in those games. But these, like, you actually see the trials and tribulations. And that's really interesting compared to any other compilation I've played that comes to mind. Like, maybe the best way to like make my point is when Nintendo ported all the 2D Marios to Game Boy Advance, the Mario Advance line, they didn't change a single thing with the gameplay. They just added a multiplayer mode or e-reader card support for like the Mario 3 or whatever. But the core games are identical. Yet the one time they did this with a 3D game, Mario 64 DS, they changed it a ton. And I think that kind of speaks to what I'm saying, where if you like go look at Mario 64 right now, after you play Galaxy, Sunshine, 3D World, 3D Land, Odyssey, the game that seemed perfect in 1996 actually is showing its age. And that's very strange in a way, because I never expected it to be that jarring, but there it is. It's still very fun. I still really like it, but you can definitely like sense it. That's not like technology has improved since then. The camera systems have improved. It's very strange in a weird way.
I mean, honestly, as a new release in a generation where a lot of people were not even born before Galaxy came out,
yeah,
I think it's great that all three are out so they could actually experience them like a time capsule. Mm-hmm. I think it's great for, just so many new Nintendo fans, and it's crazy to think that Galaxy came out in, I don't even know, 2007?
Yeah, 2007.
8? So, yeah, that's like 13 years ago. For a 10-year-old to be playing those three games back-to-back for the first time, that's pretty crazy.
It's super
and awesome.
Cool. And yeah,
because one of us got to play those games like when we were maybe 8 or 9, and we still had to wait like who knows how long for Sunshine, and then who knows how long for Galaxy.
Yep.
But they get all three back to back, and then they get to play Galaxy 2 somehow, maybe, and then
Odyssey and like 3D World in a couple months. Yeah, they have it really good right now.
It kind of goes backwards in Odyssey, but they still get to play it, which is awesome. But
and the thing about Galaxy that's really funny is playing it in HD. Like this game, like I don't know if it must be the art direction, it must be some of the choices they made with the game design, but like it easily could be a game released today. Like the other two, you can see their age. Galaxy feels modern. Like, this really does feel like a game that could come out in 2020, even though it's from 2007. So the other ones maybe, show their age, but Galaxy in particular holds up really well. But to be fair, to contradict myself a bit, I actually do kind of like the time capsule nature of the collection. Like, I think this is partly what I'm actually loving most about Mario Sunshine, is that it's such a timepiece, the good and the bad. I mean, the game just feels very of its era. It's such a like vision of how 2002 thought next gen gaming had to be. I mean, obviously it still falls in some direct footsteps of Mario 64, but grander. So, you're jumping into graffitied M's instead of paintings. Peach's castle is now this entire town on Isle Delfino, not just like a little empty castle. Instead of Bowser being the only enemy, there's now a second smaller Bowser, and he thinks Peach is his mom, weirdly. But like even the levels are, let's say about double the size of 64's, and some concepts from 64, like the sliding levels, they kind of flip those on their head by now. It's like, oh, you're on a roller coaster, and it's also a boss battle. So everything like has just a general, it's a sequel, it's going to be grander vibe to it. But at the same time, like I was saying, there are so many plays towards, oh, this is what next gen is. This is how gaming becomes more real. This is what 2002 thinks gaming has to be. Like, they can't just have a collection of random worlds for no rhyme or reason. Every level has a shared theme of being on the island. And you don't just have a quick one-and-done story. You now have actual cutscenes and cinematics. And, everyone loved the towns in Ocarina of Time. So now you've got to make the hub world of Mario Sunshine like that, too, where there's islanders to talk to as you go around, and they're going about their day, and some of them have little mini games if you enter their respective businesses or homes or whatever. And even like the way Flood calls out to Mario with his little Mario is very like, they did 64, they saw how Ocarina of Time was treated, and they're like, okay, we need something like Navi, we need something that talks to the player. And I think just like generally speaking, the game, Like Sunshine just feels way more grounded and less whimsical than other Marios. Like granted, they shoved in the whimsy in other ways. I mean, the Piantas that live on the island are literally just colorful blobs with funny voices. Actually, all the voices in the game are kind of silly. Like Toadsworth's soundbite is literally just him. Like every time you talk to him, he just goes blah blah, and like this like obviously tongue in cheek sort of thing. But then they, they have the floodless levels, right, with no theming whatsoever. They're just kind of platforming challenges made out of plywood, I guess. And even when they do winks and nods to 2D Mario concepts like specific enemies or having chain link walls for Mario to climb, which, are in the old Mario games, they're also brought in now with a sense of realism in Sunshine. Like the chain links are actually part of the cranes at the port. They're not just random chain links for you to climb. And for Sunshine, I think it works. Like I'm enjoying it a lot. The game's cohesive. It's a fun, different setting. And even though like sometimes it has weird, pretty unforgiving physics, like we were saying, the versatility that Flood provides keeps the platforming satisfying as long as the camera's not in your way, as long as the slippery controls don't mess you up. But for the most part, it's a fun game. It's just definitely on some sort of like parallel track or like alternate dimension of the Mario series than when they sort of whipped back into the whimsy of Galaxy and 3D World and Land and more recently Odyssey, all of which got rid of basically all the things I just said. Like, it doesn't have a grounded sense of reality. It doesn't. They're just kind of like, we want to do this crazy thing. We're going to do it. And now that crazy thing, and we're going to do it. And Mario Sunshine was very much like, nah, we need to be true to what, like, real life is, because that's what next-gen gaming is. So it's very interesting how it's just sort of this isolated island of a Mario experience compared to everything before and after it, which I'm enjoying.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty confident that I would also be enjoying this game if I had actually bought on it, but
right.
Our time on Earth is limited. We have to make the best use of our time.
I mean,
I think if I'm gonna
for sure.
That got dark.
I don't know about dark, but like obviously everyone wants to try new experiences. Who doesn't? They're always fun, but but we all know that we're all guilty of this. We're always going to be like replaying games that we've beaten many, many times before. And if you're going to replay a game, I guess you have to really make sure it's one that I feel access to just isn't as ready, which, as we've addressed is kind of the main problem with this one, which is why I was also really excited about the next game that we'll get to in a bit after I'm sure Jason still has more to say about.
Oh, I just have one more thing. I just have one more thing to say because we're talking about 3D All-Stars. You know where I'm going with this? Yeah, the pins.
He's like the Energizer battery.
Pins. Those, what?
What?
What did you say about Barry?
Would you come?
No, I thought that you're like the Energizer bunny.
Oh, yeah, when it comes to some stuff. No, but if we're going to talk about Nintendo's, if we're going to talk about our finite time on Earth and Nintendo's minimal efforts and what we have to put ourselves through either by choice or by not, this one was not by I guess it was by choice, but those anniversary pins. So as you guys know, I think, if you do the My Nintendo missions, that include buying 3D All-Stars. You get a set of 5, I think. Yeah, 5 Mario pins for the 35th anniversary. There'll be another set down the line, a second wave, as they're calling it, which I think is probably going to be timed with 3D World and Bowser's Fury. And buying that. But right now you get these pins. And one of the things you have to do is buy the game. And when you do that, you go to the My Nintendo page, you click a little button, it says, cool, here's your promo code, go enter it, get your pin. Now, theoretically, that should be all it takes, right? Like, they did this a decade ago with the 25th anniversary pin set, and literally that's all it took. You click a button, you get your pin. But because Nintendo's so bare bones with things, they didn't think through how this would work. They're just like, yeah, so we're going to give you a promo code. Now you take that promo code and you go to store.nintendo.com. You then enter the promo code. But at that point, we're not going to do free shipping anymore because we're cheap, I guess. So we're going to charge you $5 for your free pins to be shipped. So we now need a credit card from you. So we'll take that credit card. And then you'll have an order confirmation as if you're buying a real item. We'll just give you a promo code that voids the cost of the item. That's reasonable. What they didn't anticipate
that's weird.
Is a little, right? Yeah. But it's kind of reasonable. If they're like, all right, you go to the store and you just do it for free. Yeah. But what they didn't anticipate is in the same way that every other gaming release of September 2020 is breaking the internet, just like the PS5 did, just like Xbox did with Series X and S, just like the NVIDIA card did. Yeah. So Nintendo's site crashed. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to go through that. I kind of can relate now, though, with a $5 set of pins. That should be free. Because, no, the site, it's bad. Their site didn't work. they had this weird hoop you had to jump through where you first get the promo code, then you go to the payment page. But you can get to the missions to get your promo code and be told the codes have run out. Meanwhile, those of us who got the codes in the 4-hour window that they let them be claimable, couldn't actually do it. The site would crash. The credit cards wouldn't process. I went through 3 different credit cards. None of them worked. I ended up calling Nintendo twice about it. It's all silly because it's free pins, but it's just on Nintendo? Principle, twice.
All right, Karen.
Wow.
1-800-255-3700.
All right,
That's
Karen.
their number. No, I didn't even call to complain. I just called to ask if I'm good because what happened was, so I put in the order.
Did you ask to speak to Reggie? Yeah, I don't care if he's not the president of Nintendo anymore. I want to speak to him.
I just want to talk to Reggie. Let me speak to it. No, I asked for Bowser.
Reggie.
No, to be clear, I wasn't complaining to them. I was just confirming what. I was just confirming what. Yeah, it's your go-to. But no, I was just calling to confirm what was happening because I was told my order wasn't processed because I had no credit card. It said the payment didn't work, which 3 different cards, it's definitely not me, it's them. Unless I'm secretly bankrupt and don't know. But then when I went to my order history, there was an order there. But the order had no payment attached, meaning it's not going to go through. So I called them just to be like, hey, am I good? Or you guys going to email me for payment or anything for the shipping for the free pins? And they said, oh, no. The first they said, oh, no, you have to do it again until you get the payment to work. So then I did it again. But this time, because I had the order in my history, the code stopped working. So I called them back and I was like, hey, so this is all happening. And then the guy's like, oh, as long as you have a promo code, don't worry about it. They're not shipping till late October. We'll figure it out. We'll be back. We'll get some information out there shortly. This was 5 or 6 days ago.
Geez, these pins sound really, really important for you to own. I mean, what are you going to do with these? What exactly are you going to do with these that it's so important that you make sure you get them?
I'm gonna put them in a drawer. I'm gonna pat them on the head like they're a little puppy or something. Put them in a drawer and then never look at them again. But it's knowing I have them in that drawer. You know what it really is?
That is all that matters.
No, you know what it really is? It's what's it called when you invest so much time in something that I just have to see it through? Not like a time sink fallacy or something, but kind of like that. It's I put in so much effort to buy these things, and the site went down. And I do have a promo code, which if you have a code, they have now confirmed, at least to me on the phone, you're guaranteed pins at some point. So
at one point, did you realize
it was a lost cause?
Yeah.
The second it didn't work the first time. But then I was already that far in because I had the promo code. And I'm looking on Twitter and everyone's like, I didn't even get a promo code. I'm like, no. If these people wanted to get it and couldn't, I at least should see through that my promo code is used. Because it's always worse knowing that there's just a code out there that was never redeemed. So at least the people that got the codes can get the pins. So I'm on a mission now to get my pins. And I don't know when it's going to happen. And yeah.
Well, definitely keep us posted. Cause
I will absolutely keep you posted. Stay tuned to my Twitter at JSR7 for the latest breaking news on my pin endeavor. No, but it's
we will
it's
put
one
a
of those
pin
things
on
though
this.
But the only thing I'm going to say is the point about the minimal effort on Nintendo's part. There's zero reason these pins have to be this limited. There's zero reason they had to, make you jump through these hoops and not pay for shipping when they have in the past, and thus you have to put your card in. There's zero reason, from a consumer perspective, this couldn't just be a pre-order item with the game that they ship with the game. Because they were trying to do so minimal to make this a promotion, much like with the collection itself, the crack show. It's exposing the flaws in the system. So pins aside, and downsides of the 3D All-Star Collection aside, those games are a really fun time. And I it. If you have access to them other ways, maybe you don't need it. But it is kind of cool to have them all on the go on my Switch. I can play it on the couch. I can play it on the TV. It's pretty great.
Yeah,
but that
I can see that.
Yeah. But that wasn't the But that wasn't.
I'm how many times are you going to keep repeating your?
I don't know. I thought we just slipped into some endless cycle of Jay Leno impressions or something. But
Jay Leno.
Yeah, that wasn't. Everyone that mocks Jay Leno always does I don't know. That's sort of what he does.
Huh. I have to watch some clips of Jay Leno.
Yeah, he does a little head bob with it too. Sounds good. Yeah. Or for up-to-the-minute updates on your Jay Leno endeavors, follow him on Twitter at WEIRO_. But no, that wasn't the only retro throwbacks, but I was going to start saying. Mario 3D All-Stars definitely got the most attention, but this past Tuesday, Nintendo also updated the Switch Online library of free NES and Super Nintendo games to include 4 new games. On the NES side was an action platformer by Natsume that I've never even heard of. It has a super 80s name of SCAT, Special Cybernetic Attack Team, which I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but it was new to me.
It kind of sounds like the best thing ever. But...
It sounds like straight up like,
sounds like the worst thing ever.
RoboCop. Yeah.
I'm going based on what the acronym actually stands for, not just the SCAT part.
Yeah, no, SCAT doesn't sound that great, but yeah, the Cyberkinetic Action Attack Team, Special Cyberkinetic Attack Team. But then, so that was one game that came out. But then on the Super Nintendo side, we got a beat-em-up called The Peacekeepers, whatever. But then we got the first ever U.S. release of Mario Super Picross, and
I feel like that makes it sound more special than it is, but obviously...
Well, it is the first ever U.S. release.
All they cared about is just the fact that DKC2 is finally on Switch.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, that's Donkey Kong Country 2, but Angel's so hip he just shortens it. Diddy Kong's Quest. How is... I mean, Angel, you've been counting down for... Or not counting down, because you know it's coming, but you've been wanting this since...
I mean, as I said, like, our time in this world is limited, so I ain't got time to say Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Quest. I mean, I just did, but that was just a waste of all our time. I'm wasting more time going over this, so...
But how is it? Like,
clearly, how I spend my remaining time in this world is not a priority. Yeah, revisiting this game was definitely always special. The Super Nintendo, at least compared to my other consoles, is not as easily accessible. I could definitely still play it and get to Donkey Kong Country 2 and play it on my Super Nintendo, but the amount of effort it would take to get that going is not worth it. It's definitely at the point where getting it digitally and having it accessible through another console would be ideal, which is, I mean, I've been playing the game on and off this year on the 3DS, but you know, I want to play it on a TV, and I've just been waiting patiently, maybe not patiently, but I've been waiting, and you know, we finally got it, and even though I have been playing it throughout the year on and off, I mean, playing on the TV just definitely feels like a different experience. I mean, even though the resolution was still really nice on the 3DS, just seeing it on a big screen, kind of how you remembered, because obviously we played it on one of those old like tube TVs, so it's not like I had a nice like 40-inch TV back then. Mm-hmm. But, you know, just listening to the music, playing through the levels, like everything about it so far has either felt just how I remembered or better, because I feel like I'm just enjoying the dialogue a lot more. Just enjoying even like the placement of the enemies, or even just the enemy designs. Maybe just because of how much I love part 1, everything about part 2 just felt like a better version of it. It was just kind of like going from I don't want to say Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2, because I do like Galaxy 2 more, but a lot of the things Galaxy 2 does also just kind of feel different. But I will say overall, I mean, I guess it did do some things better. Like, as nice as the observatory was, I think having a stage select screen was just more convenient, because, you know, just get into the game. There wasn't really, unless they gave us something to do in the observatory besides the stories from Rosalina, which was nice, but that was just like the same area. Like, it didn't require any exploring or any sense of discovery. It was just go to level. It was just, it felt padding. It felt very padded. Mm-hmm. Unlike Peach's Castle, which actually did have like secret rooms and other stars that you can only get from randomly exploring the castle. Like, that was actually cool. But I digress. Part 2 has way more secrets. There's way more verticality in this game. They made much better use of the 2 Kongs that you're using at the same time. Like, now you could pick the other Kong up and throw them at enemies, use them to get to higher obstacles. Essentially, you have more incentive to do your best not to die, because once you're stuck with one Kong, your ability to like navigate through a level becomes extremely limited, and the game is also just much harder. Like, it definitely feels like it just picked up in difficulty from where the other game left off. Like, it definitely has, I mean, it's not to say that it starts off impossibly hard, but it just has a much nicer curve that feels like it knows you're coming from part 2. And yeah, just not to mention like just the number of tracks that just feel amazing, and I don't know, everything about it. Just really happy with it. But because of how happy I am with it, it also does bring, I guess, the fact that I can't play it anytime I want on the Switch up to the forefront. This usually is not an issue because there hasn't been a game I cared about as much as this one on the Switch yet. But because I love Donkey Kong Country so much, I want to be able to play anytime, anywhere. And you'd think with the Switch, that'd be the one console to do it. But I can't, because you have to be tethered to an internet connection at all times to play it. which really sucks. I mean, I feel like we've been saying this for a long time, but now more than ever is when I wish there was at least an option. At the very least, if you have a Nintendo account, maybe make this exclusive to people with a Nintendo Online account to buy any one of these games, and then they're just available online, even if it's just that one. But, just something. I feel like that should be a minimum by now, considering they have done this with every console since the Wii. Like in the past, Donkey Kong Country 2 is literally on the 3DS with this service. Like, come on, like, what the heck? It almost feels insulting at this point. But yeah,
it seems like such an easy win too. Because like one of the things we were talking QC a little last episode, weirdly about Nintendo Talk. We mentioned at that big shareholder meeting, and a question that came up was about Switch Online, and it turns out only like 26 million people have Switch Online. Which on the one hand, that's a big number of people. But the Switch is like more than double that. So like less than half of all people that own Switches have Switch Online. And as such, Nintendo's outright saying they're trying to come up with new experiences and different ways to entice people not just to join, but to keep them subscribed, to kind of minimize the churn of accounts, so to speak. So, there's stuff like Super Mario 35 that's going to do that when it comes out on the 1st in a few days here. But then like something like what you're describing, Angel, like basically giving Switch Online owners access to like a private virtual console, whether it be paid to download or just maybe they just need to ping you like once a week or something. Like that seems like something that would help with. That's definitely something that I would.
That's a feature that I would push towards someone that's on the fence about getting the service, because as of now, everything that's on it, it feels like a win more situation. Like nothing on the virtual console right now. On the virtual console, on the Nintendo Online account, Nintendo Online, whatever the service is called. Yeah. Nothing about it or not anything that's being offered doesn't feel like something that would convince people to get it. Just something that would convince people to keep it. Because I don't know, everything is either very bite-sized or limited in some way. But if you already have the system or if you already have the service, they feel convenient or just kind of nice to have. But some stuff is still annoying, like the phone service app. A lot of things were already backwards coming from the Wii U, which somehow had a
good online infrastructure and a social network.
Had a social network. Yeah. You could actually send messages, and it was free, and you could buy games. I don't know how this one feels worse, and it costs money. But, it is what it is.
I think Nintendo, I think what Nintendo really needs to focus on, more selling points would be good, but I think what they are focusing on, and this is what every service does, it's the reason Mandalorian Season 2 is coming out right on the cusp of the 1-year renewal period for those who bought the 1 year. It's the reason that Hulu and Disney Plus and stuff now do weekly episodes, not dumps like Netflix does. You want to keep the churn down. So even though something like this would be a good selling point, ultimately what Nintendo's probably going to look at is events, like stuff like Mario 35, like I was saying, or stuff like, they announced in the partner showcase that Disgaea 6 is coming out on Switch, which is traditionally a PlayStation franchise. So to kind of prime the pump for Disgaea 6 and to get more people interested, it's, I think, one of the first third-party games that's getting a complete trial. Actually, the game's called Disgaea 5 Complete, so it's just a complete version of the complete game in trial form. But basically from
the game wasn't completed before and they just sold it?
No, it was. I sort of misspoke there. Disgaea 5 Complete is the full name of the game, and this is a complete trial of the complete game. What I'm saying is from the 23rd to the 29th, so i.e. right now, anyone that has Switch Online can try out the entirety of Disgaea 5 Complete. The whole game's downloadable. They've done this with first-party games like ARMS and stuff in the past. But you can go play it now, and if you like it, it's then 50% off until October 6th. And, 6 isn't out till next summer. So, in a way, they're kind of priming the pump far in advance for it with this. But what I'm getting at, why I bring it up now, posted as part of the partner showcase, is I think what Nintendo's going to do, and maybe, downloading games is just kind of a side hustle for them at this point if they want to offer that. But I think what they're trying to do is constantly have stuff. Like Disgaea 5's trial ends 2 days before Mario 35 begins. And as that's going on, there's in Smash Bros. They're doing that Nintendo VS Challenge Cup, which is the first time they're doing a tangible prize tournament inside Smash itself. Yeah. They've done it with Battlefield, but they've never done it in-game. So they're trying to do all these things that the only way you can actually partake in them is if you have the subscription. And I think that's kind of their angle, as much as as much as a download option would be great and could augment it, I think we might realistically, the more I think about it, we're probably going to see more stuff like these things happening and less stuff like, like new actual full-on features. They're basically going to say if you want your full Switch experience, if you want access to things, if you want to be able to win $100 in eShop credit by playing in Smash for these 3 hours on a random Saturday, like you gotta have the subscription. And I don't know how compelling that I don't know how compelling that is though. Like, I mean, Angel, would you like if you didn't already have Switch Online? You're our Smash guy. Would you be playing that Nintendo VS Challenge Cup?
No. If I didn't,
like, would you pay to play it?
No way. Because I don't know if Nintendo knows this, but there are hundreds of online tournaments that are available with very wide rule sets that actually offer cash prizes and much, much more, that actually have their own like reputation and I guess notoriety within the Smash community. So this is great that as far as like accessibility goes, like, I mean, this is as best as it can get. You literally just have to go to that part of the menu, click on it, and then you just start it, and that's it. It's pretty easy. Well, at least registering it. I can't actually play it because we're recording literally during, as it's going on. But I like the idea of it. I mean, it's an item tournament, so, it's going to be as approachable to newcomers as Nintendo usually likes to do these kinds of tournaments, which is fine. But, I mean, maybe if they do one without items later on, or just do this more often, like just give us an incentive to participate in these tournaments, then then I'd be down for that. I mean, that's cool. But as of now, I don't think it's worth it.
So, like,
especially if you don't. I mean, mainly if you don't have Nintendo Online, it's not worth grabbing it just for this.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
Not.
But let's say this was going on. Mario 35 was going on.
Especially because if you somehow have Smash Brothers and you gotten this long without having it Nintendo Online, then you clearly don't want to play people online. So this is not going to change your mind.
True, that's true. Well, I guess this in of itself might not, but if you combine I feel like it's a pretty decent value proposition. If they're like, hey, it's a limited time game. I know how you guys feel about Mario 35 being limited time. We talked about it last episode, but just from the pitch side of it, hey, if you want to try this limited time Mario game, participate in this tournament, demo all these different games that rotate out every few weeks, and have access to this whole library of downloadable, NES and Super Nintendo games, like that at that point starts to sound like an actual package more than what it's been up to this point. Like, I don't think any one thing on its own will get people. I mean, I know downloads will for you because of your desire to play Diddy Kong outside of an internet connection, but like that's where it starts to feel more like an all-encompassing package, right? Like, I feel like they're moving that way. They're just doing it so piecemeal we're not really seeing it. But if someone came to Switch Online in 6 months and they had all that running concurrently, that doesn't sound so bare bones compared to what we subscribed to 2 years ago, But maybe that's just me.
I mean, it is when you list it all off, but I'm trying to think of, like, outside of, I guess, just playing with my friends at its bare minimum, which is something that I've been able to do without having to pay. Like, I don't think I've used any other services for free that I wouldn't, besides just playing with friends. I think you're the only one that has been taking more advantage of it with the Maximus Cups or the different skins from Tetris.
Yeah. Oh, I do love those.
But, yeah.
Yeah, what about you, Kevin? Like, do you do much for Switch Online besides if you hop online with friends ever?
Nope. Literally only use it for Smash, Mario Kart, and whenever we play Killer Queen Black.
And I was going to say, it used to be true of, like, games like Rocket League, but that's now free to play. So that avoids it completely. And, like, games like Spellbound that came out, like, there's a bunch of free to play stuff, like Vigor and a few others that all, like, sidestep it entirely. So it's not even every game. A lot of people can play Fortnite and never touch Switch Online, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's definitely an uphill battle, but...
And it's so funny because, like, Nintendo, we're talking about Switch Online. It's, like, such, like, it seems like such like a, this should be so obvious, Nintendo. Meanwhile, there's like some modders out there that, like, I saw a story that like some dudes are making an NES game that has a Wi-Fi chip in the cartridge so your NES can play online against other people. What? It's just like, it's a game called Super Tilt Brothers. It's basically two Super 8-bit Smash Brothers of sorts, and they have prototyped a cartridge with a Wi-Fi chip on it So, like, if you want to play online with people, you just use the Wi-Fi on the cartridge, and all the settings are in the cartridge. And it's just like some modders can figure out how to turn the NES into an online machine, and meanwhile, we're sitting here like, come on, Nintendo, why are you not making, you're charging for something that these modders are doing for free. You're charging for something that, like, the other guys on some level, I guess PlayStation do for free, but it's just kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, so that, was there anything else you want to say about Diddy Kong? I feel like I hijacked you there a little.
I could dig that. What? No, just the fact what you were talking about. That sounds like a good invention, but no, yeah. Diddy Kong, yeah, it's as good as I remember it.
So how's Mario Super Picross then? Because I suck at, or is it Picross or Picross? I don't really even know.
Picross.
I suspect it's Picross.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Picross. Yeah.
I never could quite get the hang. Like it never really clicked with me. But how is it? Like, have you played other ones before, or was this your first time with that series?
It's my first time ever playing a Picross game. I honestly I didn't know what the game, how it worked beforehand, so it was a good introduction. And even though it was like all in Japanese, the tutorial, like, it still teaches you how to play it well enough that you can figure it out. But yeah, it's fun. Like, essentially, I mean, the game is, I'm guessing it literally is just this. It feels like it's just Minesweeper. I don't know what the difference between Minesweeper and this is. Actually, yeah, all right. So it is like Minesweeper, but it's like reverse a little. Essentially, in Minesweeper, you are kind of just like, the first couple clicks, you're just guessing around where you think a mine is. And every time you click on a, I guess on a panel, you don't know. I mean, it'll tell you like, oh, there are 4 mines touching this square, or 3 mines. It'll give you a number that corresponds to how many mines are touching that square on any given side. Mm-hmm. In Picross, you have a row and a column that has the numbers listed there. So if a row has a 5, that means 5. If a row has the 5 in front of it, then that means there are 5, I guess, squares on that row that need to be excavated, and vice versa. Oh yeah, and so on. So every column, so if a column has 10, then that means 10 of those blocks have to be excavated. So essentially, the game starts off pretty easily, and usually there is one whole row that usually gets excavated, which then tells you, all right, this row over here only has 3 that need to be excavated, and they're always adjacent to each other. So if you have a row that was all excavated, and then you have one column that just says 2 are needed, then you know it's going to be either above or below that row that was excavated. So that there's just a lot of cross-referencing essentially that you're doing. And, it's fun. It's not that hard, but I could definitely see how it could get a lot harder. And after beating the first level, you actually do jump straight into, I guess, the Wario version of it. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, Wario just kind of shows up, and it's like now Wario Picross. And, I mean, those are really cool. It's nice seeing, like, new renders of Wario. Well, not new, but I guess renders I haven't seen. It's new to me, so...
New to America.
To America?
Yeah, this game's never come out here before.
Yeah. And yeah, I could definitely see myself playing more of it.
So, like,
time waster.
How deep does the Mario theming go? Because, like, if I'm not mistaken, you form images, right? Like, you're excavating to get to images, and then it's like, oh, look, it's a bagel or something. Like, do they have like Mario? I don't know why I said bagel, but do they have like Mario themed imagery, or is it just like only the surface levels Mario, and then all the images are still
the menus? Because I finished a whole level and a couple from the next level. And the first level was literally just like different hiragana or katakana, just like Japanese characters. Mm-hmm. And then the next couple levels were like, one was like a penguin, the North Star. No, not the North Star. The Little Dipper, a boat. Like random stuff. So
they slap Mario on to sell the thing essentially, and then sell it here.
I'm sure the Zelda Picross is actually more of an actual Picross kind of
thing.
thing.
The Twilight Princess My Nintendo thing Club Nintendo thing from back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, because this one definitely is just kind of there.
Yeah. And even though it's in Japanese, not too hard to figure out.
Oh, no, yeah, you could definitely... I mean, there's a decent amount of English in it, ironically. But, yeah, anyone could figure it out. And I would I feel like anyone should just play it at this point if you...
It is free with Switch Online.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which I guess, actually, Kevin, is there any game you've been playing you want to highlight, or should we just jump to news at this point?
Let's just jump to the news. I might have something to talk about in the next episode, which we will get to.
Ooh, mysterious.
Which we will get to in the news.
Okay, well, with that in mind, let's talk about news. It sounds mysterious. But yeah, so Nintendo has been pretty busy lately. I was saying that at the top of the show, but I'd say for the past, as we kind of prime the pump here for what we're going to talk about, I'd say for the past 5 or 6 weeks now, we've had new announcements from Nintendo every single week. After such a long summer of relative silence, it's been pretty nice. We're getting presentations, we're getting shadow drops of Kirby Fighters, we're getting new Animal Crossing updates. Even this weekend, today, the day we're recording, they just did an Age of Calamity thing at Tokyo Game Show and revealed that Young Impa is going to be a playable character. So it's constant news now. Young Impa, because remember, it's 100 years ago, so it's a Young Impa. Young Impa.
Young Impa. Wow.
Sounds like a rapper, the more we repeat it, actually. Young Impa. But anyway, to go chronological here, we should start with the September Nintendo Direct Mini partner showcase that we've already mentioned a couple times, which, before we get into the games, dare I say that might have actually been the best one yet? If you ask me, and I know nobody did, but if you ask me, I think they struck the balance, though, of news. We got some big reveals like the Monster Hunters. We got first looks at some further out games like Rune Factory 5, which pretty much followed in the footsteps of Shin Megami Tensei 5 by using the partner showcase as the gameplay debut thing. And we got a variety of genres for short, covering a bunch of shorter-term releases. So we got Empire of Sin, which I know, Kevin, I think back in one of the Indie World, we were talking about that you were interested in that. Mm-hmm. I got Fitness Boxing 2. The original sold over 1 million, so that's a notable one at this point. Some random stuff like Sniper Elite 4. And then we got some real short-term news with shadow drops of both Hades from Supergiant Games.
That's the game.
Which is getting great reviews. Yeah. That's the game?
Yeah. I'm going to pick up Hades for sure.
I'd be very curious to hear what you think about it, because it's supposedly exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
It was outselling Mario 3D All-Stars on the eShop for a few days when they both came out.
Yep, I'm excited.
Yeah. So that was shadow dropped from the partner showcase. Long Dark was shadow dropped. That's a survival game out in the wilderness. And then Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which wasn't even previously announced for Switch, was announced and released on the spot. And you could tell Nintendo knew they had a winner with this showcase, I feel because this is the only one that got proper advance notice. This is the only one that got a live stream. And I don't personally anticipate every partner showcase being able to diversify like this and have this good of a showing, because third parties are on their own schedules. Not all games are created equal in terms of hype or interest. The timing just doesn't necessarily work out. But for this one, I at least thought they did a really good job in terms of quantity and variety. I mean, what did you guys think of it? Or do you just want to jump straight into the biggie of the show, which was the Monster Hunter duo?
I mean, I guess stepping back and just looking at it through an analytical eye as far as how good is this presentation for a general Nintendo news? I mean, I guess it's great. Personally, I thought it was whatever's.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton that personally resonated with me, but I thought conceptually.
My experience watching it was ooh, new Monster Hunter, that's awesome. And then the screen went black for 15 minutes, and then there's a Monster Hunter Direct. That was kind of weird for them to literally announce nothing for a couple minutes straight, but hey.
You're not buying Sniper Elite 4? Come on.
No. Think so.
Well, okay. Well, that's fair. Kevin, I'm guessing, besides Hades and Monster Hunter, I guess? Are you into Monster Hunter? I feel like I should know the answer.
No, I'm not really into Monster Hunter. I did buy Monster Hunter World, and those games I feel are better played with friends, and fortunately I don't have friends that bought Monster Hunter World on PC, so.
Well, if you get the new one, Rise, for Switch, you do have a friend on the other end of this very recording.
For me to buy, though.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I really want to play Monster Hunter World because I do love the series, um, I think it was just a combination of just being too busy and maybe franchise fatigue a little bit. Maybe I just needed a break. It didn't feel like I did, but I mean, I I started playing the franchise in Monster Hunter 3 Try on the Wii, loved it, played the Ultimate version a ton with my brother on the Wii U, then played the hell out of the 3DS version. Monster Hunter 4. But when Monster Hunter Generations hit, I played that one not as much. And then when Monster Hunter World came out, I bought it when it came out, but I didn't really play it. I mean, I barely went an hour into it, and I got the steelbook and everything, but yeah, it's just kind of became a waste.
So where do you stand on Monster Hunter Rise in that case?
Well, that's the thing, like, because I went through what you could essentially call like a generation of not playing Monster Hunter. Mm-hmm. It's been long enough that I'm like really aching like to get back into the franchise. So I'm very much like looking forward to it. And especially because the new mechanic looks really fun. Like, I mean, the fact you have a dog that you get to maneuver through environments faster. I mean, it looks like they took the grappling ability from Monster Hunter World and just made it uber accessible instead of only available at certain points around the world. Like, I mean, you pretty much turn to Spider-Man, which is crazy. And
or go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I don't know. Definitely just really looking forward to that game, especially because I know my brother, he's obviously going to play because he played Monster Hunter World and the Iceborne DLC a lot. I've had enough of a break, and honestly, it being on Switch kind of helps me play it a lot more. So kind of looking forward to that as well. And if more people have it, then even better. I am kind of bummed that, after seeing how Monster Hunter World looks, it's definitely night and day when you bring it to the Switch.
Yeah,
but that's probably what's going to keep me from playing it.
But at the end of the day, it's all about like the monsters. I mean, this is literally just like a boss battle, boss run the game. So the environments don't really matter too much, even if they don't look that great compared to the other game. But the monsters still animate really well. They still look really good. Even on the 3DS, like I feel like the graphics are something that it's something you get over with pretty quickly. I mean, yeah, you get over really quickly after you play it for a few hours because it becomes inconsequential. Like everything about it just starts to outshine it. And I'm sure this one will be no different, assuming this is like, because it looks like it's just, they took what they learned from Monster Hunter World and are just going to this, and that's great. So
yeah, that's what's kind of interesting about it to me is it's like they're literally marrying the old Monster Hunters with World because like obviously it doesn't have the power of the graphical horsepower under the hood that World had at its disposal, and that means it's not a big open world, but they're doing stuff like it's still from what I can see from the outside perspective, it's still compartmentalized, but they're minimizing or removing the load times between each area. And then they give you something like the rival dogs. Like you're going a lot quicker through these areas, and you're still going kind of like not room to room, but segment to segment. But they've kind of cleaned up that, so it feels sort of pseudo open world, which is interesting. Because I remember playing the demo of the old one, it was very much like you are now here. Okay, now you're going over here. Now you're going over there. There's like a little pause. It seems like they're addressing that.
Well, that was addressed in Monster Hunter World, but yeah.
No. But I mean like addressing that in a more traditional structure. Because, yeah, World, obviously, it's a whole open world, and Switch, I think, simply can't handle that. So they're kind of like finding a middle ground.
I don't... Are you... Okay.
I'm saying World isn't on Switch, and this one doesn't work like World because Switch can't do it, but they found kind of a stopgap middle ground of how they can make it function like the old Monster Hunters for the sake of the horsepower, but still feel a little like World by taking away load times. If that makes sense.
Wait, how do you think World worked?
Wasn't it just one big open world?
No.
It was still kind of compartmentalized?
It was kind of... there was like different maps, but...
Yeah, like, World was just like any other Monster Hunter. You have... All Monster Hunter worlds have like a hub where you prep your food, you prep your gear and the armor you want to take to battle, and then you pick a quest. And the quests all take place in different maps. And the maps are all... whether you're in World or any other Monster Hunter, they're all like roughly about the same size overall. The only difference is that in every game before World, every single section of the map was split into like areas. So like you had like
That's what I'm
areas
talking
1 through
about.
12,
Yeah.
and in between each area, the game would load. In World, every single one of these maps got rid of that, but everything is still like separated by, I guess, levels. But yeah, I guess there's no loading going in between areas. Monster Hunter Rise is just like Monster Hunter World in that sense.
Okay. Okay. So I guess it's just the scope of it or the scale of the levels.
No,
Like, I don't know.
everything's
I guess my question is, why is it suddenly a big selling point that they got rid of the load times for this?
because it's the first time that's happened on a Nintendo console. So most people
I
that are
guess that
playing
makes
this probably
sense.
haven't played World, so they have to definitely put that as a selling point.
Right. Okay. I thought it was like some sort of hybrid thing. Gotcha.
No. Yeah,
Good thing I prefaced it from my outside perspective.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's new to us, but not new to them.
Right. I see what you're saying. The verticality thing, though, like, how is it in World? Because I guess you were saying they had the grapple, but now it seems like it's like the core
it was
part of the
definitely
game. So much so that's in the name.
It's just much faster, really. That's just what it boils down to. Like, everything is just much, much faster.
Interesting.
Which is cool.
Yeah. There's this whole thing lately with verticality in games. Like, I feel like this is going to end up, and I realize World wasn't necessarily relying on this to do it itself, but like, I feel like the legacy of Breath of the Wild is going to be verticality in games. If you see something, you can climb something. I mean, Immortals is doing it with Ubisoft. It's literally in the name of the new Monster Hunter. Like, there's something about verticality now that's like the hot new thing in gaming. Like,
It's almost like they're rediscovering 3D gaming. It's like, wait, we have a third axis.
yeah, seriously. Like, do you think it's actually going to change up? Like, having the game sped up like this, do you think it's going to, because, the dog, the grapple.
Maybe not as, it's just going to make
things.
I don't think so. It's just going to make the flow of the game a lot faster because you're going to get to areas faster because you could ride a dog that lets you move at a very fast pace without wasting stamina, whereas before you would have to run everywhere. And that was like as fast as you can get somewhere. And it would waste your stamina. You'd have to drink energy potions. So you could drink these potions while you're riding the dog. So it just speeds up getting to the monsters a lot faster, which is always the best part. Verticality has been like explored in the Monster Hunter games since like Monster Hunter 4. Like it went from you had like the most you had as far as verticality goes was that if you were on a level above a monster, like on a steeper cliff, you could just jump off the cliff and do a diving attack as you're falling down. And that was like the extent of verticality. Then in subsequent games, you eventually got the ability to. They added many more patches where you could climb upwards, but it would still have to be predetermined climbing areas. Then later games allowed you to dash as you climb, just to climb a lot faster and to attack while you're climbing, just to kind of emphasize the fact that you could do things while you're climbing. And now this one just seems like you could just climb anywhere. So,
right, Breath of the Wild style. Yeah.
So
like how
the only thing they've just kind of tried and gave up on completely was just the underwater fighting, which I feel like my brother and I didn't really have a big issue with, but obviously a lot of people did. But yeah, that never came back.
So now that you had your gap or your break, how all in are you going to go here? Because there's both a standard edition and a deluxe edition, the latter of which comes with like all sorts of in-game stuff like armor and face paint and hairstyles and I think gestures for in-game. Like, are you gonna go like are you gonna buy the amiibo? There's 3 exclusive ones at GameStop. Like, are you going all in, or are you kind of tepidly coming back in light of your kind of fatigue?
Well, no, I'm going all in. It's been long enough. I've been wanting to play these games, but I just never got around to it, and I'm just gonna make time for this one. And while I am going all in, I'm just going all in digitally. Monster Hunter is one of those games that's just best to have always available because you kind of come back to it very often, and sometimes you only do like a mission or two, and then you're kind of done for the day. So I wouldn't want to have that on a cartridge, which means I'm kind of limited to just getting the deluxe edition. So pretty much the best version I could get while digital. At this point, I'm okay not getting amiibo. If they had like, it's kind of weird to say, but if they had like a little statue that wasn't an amiibo, I'd probably be more willing to buy the physical one. But because it's an amiibo, I feel less inclined to get it. I don't know why that is.
If you scan them, you get special armor. That makes it worth the amiibo. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just don't want to buy anything with the amiibo marking on it.
Yeah, someone.
I mean,
you know, it would be
as excited as I was for like King K. Rool and Ridley coming out in Smash, I still haven't bought in those amiibos. Like, I don't know, like the only one I could see myself buying just to have would be maybe the Banjo amiibo once that comes out.
That's about, I guess, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. No.
And Kevin,
it's too much.
Or sorry, go ahead.
Screw amiibo, yeah.
And Kevin, you're just not even going to touch this, huh? Is what it sounded like. Like you World spoiled you?
No, not necessarily.
Well, they never played World.
I would love to get it to World. Like, I played maybe about 2 hours, and that was pretty much it. But yeah, I would love to play World. I would have loved to play Rise if I hadn't been spoiled by how good and how well World runs.
I mean, what Capcom says they're going to keep this one at the same 30 frames they kept World, and it's running on
the thing about
Resident Evil 7 engine, weirdly enough.
Played World on consoles.
Yeah,
PC, so.
the thing about Monster Hunter 2 is like, or at least most of their games, is that they get so many updates that I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the life cycle of this one, it will have most, if not all, of the monsters from Monster Hunter World in it.
Right.
But it's also obviously going to have its own fair share of new ones. But I don't know if this is going to be a new deal like it was for Monster Hunter Tri through generations where they were all on Nintendo. And then World was on PS4, and I guess now Rise is on Nintendo. So does that mean we're going to get a World 2 on PS4? Because, damn, now I'm kind of thinking like am I going to be too like fatigued after playing this one to want to get World 2? Because I would want to play a game, well, now on PC, if anything, but yeah.
Well, if they follow up Rise, I hope they call it Rises again.
Nope.
They just gotta at this point. But yeah, I thought they announced World 2. Maybe not, because it seems like they're doing the Final Fantasy split, where like one console gets one type of game and one console gets the other type of game. But no, I guess they are also kind of blending them more. So
they have not announced the World 2. As a matter of fact,
I think you have the Iceborne expansion.
I think World, I think, is like Capcom's best-selling game of all time.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So it'll be interesting to see how Rise does. I think. Yeah, no, they were definitely struggling. Like that and Resident Evil 7 and a few other things really. And the Resident Evil remakes like really turned things around. Yeah.
I'm sure 2 did.
Speaking of 2, there's 2 Monster Hunters coming. So there's obviously the main one, Rise, which we talked about, but there's also Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, which, all right, so you guys gave your thoughts on normal Monster Hunter. Stories is like Monster Hunter through a Pokemon lens or something? Like, what exactly? I know you team up with the monsters and you like have to go save other monsters or something like that. Am I on the right track here?
I don't know.
Yeah, it beats me.
So how come?
I know as much as you do, assuming you saw the same trailer that I did. That's kind of all I really know about Monster Hunter.
Just the franchise in general, because there's Monster Hunter Stories 1 on the 3DS. Like this isn't a new thing. It's just
I know. I didn't really keep up with any of the Monster Hunter Stories news or anything. I just know it's some kind of Pokemon-like RPG game that just has more emphasis on the story. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It looks cool, but yeah, that's kind of where that ended. Yeah,
to get into it.
It's time for that.
It's just time investment into franchises too. Like if I'm going to be playing a Monster Hunter game, I don't want to play a core Monster Hunter game. If I'm going to play an RPG, I'd rather play something else.
Right.
Play a new original property or an established RPG property that I already know I like, because as you know, our time on this planet is limited, and we gotta use that time wisely.
It is interesting how they're releasing them so close together, though, because like Stories, granted, I guess they're very different games and gameplay, but like Stories 2 is out this summer, and Rise is out in March. Like that's mobile, very close together. Stories. Oh, the original Stories. Yeah,
he's playing the original on mobile so that he could get ready for the Switch one.
So he'll be all in. So he's the true Monster Hunter fan here. He's anything Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I got him into Monster Hunter, but he never stopped playing. So during the hiatus that I had, he just kept going, and I'll be rejoining him in Rise. So yeah.
If only they did what they're doing in Japan. They're releasing I forgot what they're calling it, but basically it's a 2-pack. So you get one physical copy, one digital copy, and then a bunch of stuff all at discounted rate, so you and a friend can play. Like you get your copy, and then you can send your friend. I know, but they're not doing it in America. So You can reach out to Capcom by visiting the Capcom.com contact us page and let them know how you feel.
There was this running joke.
But yeah, I thought that was a really cool way to help get more people into the franchise, and they're just completely not doing it here. Instead, we just get standard, deluxe, and amiibo on March 26th, which, interestingly, is also the date that was confirmed for Yuji Naka's Ball in Wonderworld with Square Enix. Also in the partner showcase, they showed off co-op mode.
Oh man, that trailer!
Lets you use like combined costumes. Yeah, it has a very Knights-esque look.
Well, I mean, that's clearly the intention.
But I was about to say, but it's not really clicking with me.
Everything about it, like, I love the imagination in the game, but something about the gameplay they show just kind of feels very rough. I don't know, the level design, even just mainly just the level design, like something about it just doesn't feel fine-tuned. It doesn't feel as fun as I like. I don't know.
Given
it's
the
not
pedigree
inviting
of who's involved, both on the publisher side with Square Enix and on the developer side with Yuji Naka and Sonic's co-creator, whose name is escaping me at the moment. It seems a little ho-hum. But I do like the concept of the co-op mode, where you can have two people running around and you combine your costumes. Because the whole thing's about costumes, right? So there's like 80 plus different costumes or whatever. And you can combine them to do like
6 seasons in a movie.
Different costumes, like different things that are only accessible if the two of you play and combine. So it's like a Wonder Twin sort of dealio, which is kind of cool. But the thing that sort of caught my eye, I actually didn't think of this at the time, but then I was reading Nintendo World Report and they had an article about this that kind of caught my eye. March 26th. They both come out on March 26th, which is a Friday, which is typically when Nintendo releases their games, but not so much when the other guys do. And one of those games is Monster Hunter, a series that Nintendo has used in the past to launch hardware revisions. It's coming out on Nintendo's favorite day of the week.
Just noticed Elvis has a Monster Hunter exclusive 3DS and a Monster Hunter PS4 Pro.
Yeah, so do you see where I'm going with this, or where Nintendo World Report was going with this? Two major third-party games on a day they don't typically release.
Oh, no.
Or a co-launch with the Switch Pro.
Actually, if it's for Monster Hunter, I guess I wouldn't mind buying a new Switch.
Because that's the thing, is to Kevin, your concern about the game running and how it looks. If they were to, granted, it wouldn't be night and day, but a 4K Monster Hunter at launch would certainly move more in the direction of World.
Between day and night.
I think I care way more about performance than resolution at this point.
That's fair. Although they still guarantee, or they're still aiming
at
for 30
this
frames,
point, sounds very
World
defeatist.
Yeah, it kind of does. But, there's, everything. Obviously, this is some speculation on Nintendo World Report's point. But, there have been all these stories. Bloomberg saying that third parties are being asked to have their games be 4K ready. There's other reports that a Switch Pro may launch in Q1 of next year. This is in Q1 of next year. March is traditionally a very big month for Nintendo, too. Obviously, beyond what Nintendo World Report was saying. But, obviously, the Switch launched in March 4 years ago by the time the Pro would be out. It's been previously released systems like the 3DS that launched in March, the Game Boy Advance SP that launched in March, and they usually have a very big release in that month. This year it was Animal Crossing New Horizons. So if you line all that up, and even when they did the new 3DS, it was with Monster Hunter, just like this would be, but it happened to be in February. So there may be something here that maybe March 26th on some level could in fact be when we get the 4K ready Switch Pro, if that becomes a thing.
What's the fiscal
and
year
what's kind of interesting, what?
When's the fiscal year end?
March 31st. So they get in right under the wire. Which also I think that lines up nicely, because an episode or two ago we were talking about how Nintendo bumped their sales forecast for Switch up to 30 million, which is more than the Wii ever sold in a year, and I think maybe more than the DS ever sold in a year. And the Switch is chugging along. There's no doubt that it's doing really well, but if you really want to guarantee you hit that number, launching a new system right there in the last week, like they do every time they do a revision, it kind of lines up. And I mean, in that same shareholder meeting we were talking about before, Shintaro Furukawa, Nintendo's president, said that they consider Switch as roughly halfway through its life cycle right now, which is typically when Nintendo does a revision. So I don't know. It was an interesting point that Nintendo World Report raised. I didn't necessarily think of it that way initially, but now that they've raised it, I'm kind of I could see it. I mean, on the other hand, it's certainly possible they can hit that goal without new hardware. I mean, Switch is doing wild numbers. The MPD August chart came out, and for sales here in the U.S., lo and behold, Switch is again the top console. It has been all year. And that's even in a month where, a strong performer like Madden was number 1, and then, UFC was number 2, and Call of Duty was number 3, and they're still killing it. But, like, half of the top 10 games on that chart were first-party Nintendo games. Animal Crossing was number 5, Ring Fit was number 6, Mario Kart was number 7, Smash was number 8, Paper Mario was number 9. And then what's crazy, if you expand that list to the top 20, Nintendo's still half of the list. Breath of the Wild is number 11, Mario U Deluxe is number 15, Super Mario Party is number 16, Mario Odyssey is number 18, Luigi's Mansion is number 20. Literally 10 out of 20 top 20 games are Nintendo games. So, like, they could probably just roll through to 30 million maybe off just the evergreens in the holidays, and stuff like the Mario 3D collection and Hyrule Warriors. But I'm not even including stuff other pushes they're doing, like Target for $100.
Not even including what other they're doing.
No, but no. What other things Nintendo's doing? Like Target now for $100, you can get a 2-pack of Mario Kart 8 and Super Mario Party in a single box. That's $10 off each game, $20 savings. And like in Brazil, Nintendo just launched the Switch, and in China,
they include that with the Switch and not 1-2 Switch. Wow.
Well, not with the Switch, with each other, but yes, exactly. No, you get the 2-pack is just Mario Kart and Mario Party together. But then like in Brazil, they just launched the Switch, and in China, Ring Fit Adventures sold out of pre-orders. So it's certainly possible they don't need a Switch Pro, and maybe March 26th is just a weird coincidence on an off day for these companies. But it is intriguing that that's the day it is. So I'm just saying, maybe. I'm not saying. Nintendo World Report saying, and I'm regurgitating, maybe. But yeah, that was Monster Hunter. Unless you guys had anything else you want to say about Monster Hunter.
Not really. No.
Okay, I think that does, I guess, kind of segue us into a different topic, which is the second wind of what?
No, I said a very dark topic.
I don't know if it's dark, but it's the second wind of Animal Crossing New Horizon, which, like I was saying, Animal Crossing's kind of killing it. It's number 5 on the August chart. It's been around that position or higher since March. And those are just physical sales. What? Or since April, not March. You're right. Thank you. Yeah, since April. Oh no, March. I was right. March. Yeah.
No. Yeah, as I said, I was just jokingly saying that it's been in that position since before it even came out.
I thought you were correcting that. I got the wrong month.
Because it feels like it's always
it's always there. And that's all physical sales, not digital. And it's still like, generally speaking, this crazy zeitgeisty thing. Like a few weeks back, IKEA released their entire furniture catalog modeled with Animal Crossing, and then like Joe Biden did like in-game yard signs for his campaign, which is very much a Pokemon Go to the Polls 2.0. Even a Japanese politician did the same thing, and then Nintendo, for some reason, for a Japanese guy at least, told him, hey, we don't endorse that, and they pulled it. But I don't think Nintendo America wants to touch politics right now, so they're not. But either way, like the point is, like every time it seems like it's peaking, it keeps going. And yet it now kind of looks like Nintendo's looking to boost it further, even though it's doing great as is, and to try and just make do a little side hustle with it, make a little extra money on the side. Because on Friday, they announced they're bringing back both the special edition Animal Crossing Switch hardware, and kind of interestingly, and Andrew, you're going to shudder when I say this based on what you're saying before, they're bringing back Animal Crossing Amiibo cards in full, like to buy in stores. The cards weren't really readily available when the game first launched. So you may not know what they actually do, but essentially, if you scan one into New Horizons, that particular villager will show up at your campsite, and you can go through the process of convincing them to move in like any other random villager, which, is great for people who may want a given specific villager or who want to ride the meme of Roland or whatever his name is. And, these cards will let them do that. I'm sure some villagers will be more sought after than others. But there is a part of me that kind of wishes the second wind of New Horizons had, like, more to it, like I don't know, like gameplay implications. I think like what I don't really play it anymore, and I think what slightly irked me is the fall update that was announced in tandem with the cards coming back and the Switch hardware re-release. Like it has some cool stuff. They're introducing pumpkins that can be farmed and crafted into new items.
And the skin tones and eye color thing is kind of interesting. Even the emotes.
Yeah, you're able to go full Halloween with skin tones and eye color and make yourself green with purple eyes or whatever. There's new reactions to learn that can then be controlled from the Nook Link app inside the Switch Online app for the first time, so you don't even need to like fiddle with it. If you have more than the shortcut buttons on your system, you can just press it on your touchscreen next to you. Like all that's great if you're still about the current set of features in the game. they're kind of cool layers on top of it. But I feel like they're not really doing anything anymore. Like, there's absolutely a group of players who are going to eat this up, and I'm glad they can enjoy it. But I'm surprised they're not introducing bigger elements. Like the past update brought in diving and swimming, or Red's art counterfeiting, or Leaf in his flower shop, or Dreams, the Dreamscape things. And like in the grand scheme of things, this fall update, when Nintendo's now like actually doing a marketing push again for the game, it's pretty cosmetic only. You know, like it's all like, cool, you can get new items that look like pumpkins, or cool, you can make your skin look a different color. That's not normal, like purple. But that's like it. It seems like there's so many things that just left on the table, you know? And it does keep selling well. So it seems like Nintendo could, or is basically riding this out and going like, well, you know what? Like when the sales go down, then we'll bring out the bigger stuff. Because half of DLC is always the marketing, you know, like just being like, hey, Brewster's here. And you'd be like, oh, I love Brewster. Maybe you'll go play it again. I don't know who would do that. But it just seems like, what? Yeah, everyone loves Brewster. He's great. But I don't know if that'll get you to go play again. But like, it just seems like there seems like an opportunity here that they could use to rope in some lapsed players who maybe want a gameplay shakeup. Do it at a time when there's strong word of mouth because of the holidays. Like even with COVID and everything, like people are still going to go home for the holidays probably more so than any other time of year. And like, you know, they make these amiibo cards, they're bringing them back, and I'm sure they're going to sell decently, but if you really want them to fly off the shelves, why wouldn't you have the full audience back and have the full audience engaged and then do the cards? It just seems like a slight missed opportunity. Like, I don't know, like nothing here is compelling me to jump in or care about amiibo cards. I'm guessing, Angel, you're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, not really going back for the amiibo. If anything, I'm probably just going to start playing again just because it's been long enough that I haven't played that I kind of miss it a little. And, you know, just kind of pick a little more off of my island project. I mean, I still have a grand vision for what I want it to look like. I knew it's going to take years for it to get done, but, you know, what's the rush?
So, now are you feeling that way now because they just happened to do a burst of Animal Crossing stuff? Or is
No, it's just a coincidence.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Because it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's great for people who have it, but it just seems like they're holding back a bit artificially here. Like, there's so many things that the old Animal Crossing could do that this one still can't. And they're kind of just like waiting it out. And I guess they're waiting till the sales go down, but it just feels like they're kind of leaving some longer term fans high and dry because they've done all these things. Like, they've collected all the items. And okay, there's pumpkin ones, but you know.
And how does that make you feel?
Engaged? It makes me feel how I just described it for the last few minutes. I don't know. I don't have I guess my emotional response is like
dirty,
slightly disappointed.
Oh.
But then on the flip side of that, though, like sometimes Nintendo does do cool stuff. So unless you guys had any thoughts on Animal Crossing, I'm going to jump to the cool thing they did. Like maybe the Animal Crossing.
What could they possibly do that's cool?
Release a game out of nowhere, a full game, like just no rhyme or reason, no warning, just hey, here's a new Kirby game. Ignore what the Kirby game is for a second. Just in concept, I like this idea that, you know, if it wasn't for Nintendo leaking the game themselves on their own website the night before by accident, the fact that we just out of the blue got a full Kirby game, granted it's a spinoff, but nonetheless, it's kind of cool. Like, I kind of like that Nintendo can still surprise us like that. How much
does it cost?
No, it's not. It's a $20 fighter thing.
Yes, it's a spinoff. So basically what it amounts to, Kevin, is Diet Smash Bros, at least from what I can tell. Like, for $20, you're getting a game that has 17 different Kirbys with 17 different copy abilities, including a new one for the first time in 15 years or something called The Wrestler. And you fight them all in 2D arenas that look kind of like Smash Bros, but you're not knocking each other off the stage. You're depleting each other's health bars, and you use like items plus your attacks or something. Like, Angel, did you play the original? I never played the original.
I played the demo briefly. But...
So am I kind of on the right path here with how it works?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a much simplified Smash Brothers where everyone is Kirby with a different ability. And the abilities are just a little more refined than usual.
Which Kirby game was the one that was like almost treated like a Monster Hunter game? Which one was that one? Or am I making stuff up?
Well, there's an RPG. Oh, Super Kirby Clash.
Was that
the one where you have to team up to fight big bosses together, and it's 2D? Yeah, Super Kirby Clash. Or Kirby Clash. Oh. Both of these spun off from Kirby Triple Deluxe on the 3DS. and became their own separate games for sale on the 3DS eShop, and now have sequels on Switch, which is kind of interesting. But what's kind of cool, honestly, about Kirby Fighters 2 is it's not just Kirby's now. Meta Knight's there, King Dedede's there. They look like they literally have their Smash Bros. Movesets.
So it's
but
an
they also
in-universe Kirby game, I guess. Kirby fighting game.
Yeah. But they also have Waddle Dee and Magolor and one guy that almost made me buy it on concept alone, which was Gooey from way back in Kirby's Dream Land 2. He's playable, and that just, to me, I was just like, oh, that's actually really cool. But I still don't.
They brought him back for Star Ally, so all the
I know.
It was also in
like
Kirby Superstar 3.
Playable. True. Kirby Dream Land 2 was one of the very first Game Boy games I had, which is why I have that specific connection with the specific game. Yeah. But I like, are you, Angel, you're a fighting game guy, you're a Smash Bros guy. Let me guess, you're not getting this one, are you?
No.
Kotaku or someone summed it up well as like, it's the carnival game version of Smash Bros.
I mean, why play that when I have Smash Brothers?
Yeah. Like, it's fun because even the menus look like Smash Bros. Like, I don't know if you browse like the menus, but it's very, very similar. I think
Kirby's already a character that's not very fun to fight against in Smash Brothers. Why would I want a game revolved around his franchise?
I mean, that's a fair point. I think it's interesting because I guess the weight of the characters I mean, I don't know if you experienced with the original that this was the case, but I guess they changed how Kirby feels for this one, and all the Kirbys are like, you go in and it looks like Smash, so you expect Smash, but the characters are actually a lot heavier, so they don't like fly around as much, really. Which is kind of, so it is a little different. I mean, it's not made by HAL directly. Van Pool helped co-develop it. They're the ones that also did Super Kirby Clash last year. But, like, I think if I were to buy it, it would be because the game feels like some sort of best of or greatest hits of the Kirby franchise. You know, like I mentioned Gooey, but, like, I'm sure there's fan service galore throughout this thing. The stage choices, you know, the music, all that. But, it doesn't feel like there's enough meat there. Like, it does feel like knockoff Smash Bros., which is so weird because Nintendo also makes Smash Bros.
Well, it's the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure the game is great. I'm sure it has some polish, but...
Yeah, and they have things in there that are kind of nice, like a leveling up system, and there's a story mode, even though, you know, it's like typical fighting game story
leveling
mode.
Up system in a fighting game, those are the worst.
But I'm saying, like, at least they're trying to stand out. It has online multiplayer. At least they're trying to, like, stand out
like that.
Well, what's your qualm with that?
I mean, when I think fighting games, I don't know. I guess I want everybody to know that it's just, I don't know. Leveling system just adds another mechanic that I feel is sometimes not always nicely received. Like, if someone else, I mean, I don't know how this leveling system works, but if it's like what I think it is, like I know, like in Justice 2, for instance, like there's a mode where you could play where some characters use a leveling system. Most people don't play that mode because of this reason alone. But essentially, you could have a character that is so leveled up, so high that they don't even really have to do anything to win. You could do all the combos you want on him, something that would have normally killed anyone, but they'll take like a quarter of their damage. It's like they pretty much turn into like a boss monster. And so pretty much matches are either ridiculously unbalanced or because both people are the same level, it's like the same thing. So yeah, all it does is just add needless frustration on one end. So yeah,
I feel like there's so many.
Make it its own mode. If that's all it is, that kind of sucks. But if there's a separate mode for that, then that's fine, because then that's where you get to show off that you spent, well, all the time that you spent like grinding to level up your character will pay off. But don't put it in the main version, or just make it its own mode. Make it a separate thing.
Yeah,
So
I'm honestly not sure where.
Because
like I think, or go ahead.
Because I mean, as okay as I think I am in Smash Brothers, like I know like there's people that like I've beaten that I've put way more hours into the game that I have, just because I know I have like better fundamental skills than them. Because I've played all the previous one. What? That's a pretty.
I'm kidding.
I'm only thinking because like I've seen it firsthand. Like I used to play with a group of people that they were really good, but I would beat them like maybe like 99% of the time. I would win like every time against them. I would lose like once like every. Yeah, it was kind of rare when I lost. Even though the games were sometimes close, I would just always pull out ahead of them. And then one day I just decided just to check like how many hours they put into the game. And at the time, I think I only had like 80 hours into Smash Ultimate, but these people already had it in the thousands. And I was like, how can you have this many hours in the game, but I guess still kind of not beat me?
And then the cockiness set in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, because then it's like, but then I guess putting it in those terms, like, because I know like I've had, these people are probably like, I know even for a fact, like some of them, like Smash Ultimate was one of their first games that they played in the Smash series. So even though they had thousands of hours in the game, or over 1,000, it didn't matter much because just by playing them for a few seconds, I already knew like their play style and I was able to exploit that. But because I've played, since essentially Smash 64, I've had years and years to refine that, I guess. But if we had like a leveling up system, they would, I guess, no matter how good or how much better I am than them, then yeah, they would just destroy the heck out of me. And at that point, it just kind of comes down to, I guess that's my biggest problem with it, is that not everyone can play the game as much as other people. And when you try to play online, like that's kind of what you're just going to end up with. Like few overpowered
it comes down
people.
to time spent.
Yeah, the people that have the hour to put into it, the time to put into it, are just going to destroy everyone else. Which
as we know from throughout this episode about time.
Yeah, you only have so much time in this world, so might as well balance it out as much as possible sometimes.
And
unless that's the point of it. I mean, if that's literally the point of it, then that's fine. But, I feel like my example kind of exemplifies that a little. But yeah.
I feel like this game in particular, because there's so many weird. I really wish of all the games that Nintendo went, you know what, this Kirby game is not going to be free to play. I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of wish Kirby Fighters 2 was a free to play game like Super Kirby Clash. Like, it's actually a bit odd that it's not, because like I was saying, they're kind of both spin-offs from the same core game, Triple Deluxe. They're both made by Vanpool. Like, I feel like they could. Maybe not fully free to play, but I think like if they Tetris 99 this a little, like make the multiplayer battles free and switch online, and then like, besides being a feather in the cap for the service, as we were discussing earlier, it can then be used as an advertisement for the rest of the game. So maybe the core multiplayer doesn't have a leveling up system. It's just the multiplayer. You can see if you like it. And then if you do, you get these modes with the leveling up. You get the story mode. You get all that. And you can decide if it's worth your finite time, because there's only so much time we have in this world. Because like I genuinely think I'd be interested in trying it. And who knows, maybe I'll like it. But based on what I've seen and what...
You might even like it too much.
I might, and then that might be what the rest of my time is spent on in this world. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Just like, I'm not sure if it's worth a $20 gamble, but this game in particular feels like one that either should be cheaper or like they should have done a free thing first, just so you can kind of feel it out, because it's so similar to Smash that any little difference, like, even the leveling up system can make or break it for someone, and no one really knows. No one's necessarily going to take that $20 gamble. So I don't know, but it's interesting. I like the concept of Nintendo just dropping things out of the blue. The last time they did this was Jump Rope Challenge, which, reminder, everyone, you only have like 2 or 3 days to get. It ends at the end of this month. But that one was obviously a much smaller scale release. This is a full-on game. So if they have a couple more of these up their sleeve, like kind of B-tier
it's a good idea to download it. If you miss it, don't worry, you're not missing that much. If you
Jump Rope? Yeah, no.
If you want to play the game, just jump in place, and there you go.
The only difference is you have a little cartoon bunny telling you you're doing it.
Find a video of it on YouTube and then jump along with it.
Yeah, there you go. Good. There you go. And then it could set the pace for you. Yeah. But yeah, so that was unless you guys had anything else about Kirby, that was pretty much it for the positive news. There is one sort of mournful story, which is not really mournful, but one sad little tidbit, which is that the Nintendo 3DS, born March 2011, is done. They discontinued. Yep, they discontinued it last week. They announced that they have no plans to produce further hardware, but they will continue the online service. They will continue the eShop. They will continue having games available, retail and digital. But yeah, I thought to end this episode, we might as well reflect on this thing that lasted for 9.5 years. It
I still have to buy
came
Metroid,
out right before our first episode. What?
I still have to buy Metroid 2.
You mean Samus Returns? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
and there's still
produced handheld?
It's up there. It's slightly longer than the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance, I actually calculated this out like a week ago. The Game Boy Advance was 9 years, 1 month, and 24 days. The 3DS was 9 years, 6 months, and 22 days. Which I find kind of funny because I always used to say on the podcast, Nintendo's going to follow the Game Boy Advance MO. Like, the Switch is going to come out and the 3DS is going to turn into the budget system and it'll last about as long as the Game Boy Advance. I did not think I'd have it almost to the exact month, but sure enough, they followed the strategy nearly to the exact month. It exceeded it a smidge, which does line up with Nintendo saying it's selling better than they expected the first year or two of the Switch.
Look at this guy.
I know, so proud of myself. Yeah, nerdy. But no, I feel like the 3DS was such an interesting system. Like, it went through so many... Like, what launched in March of 2011 is nowhere near what we had by the end of the 3DS life, or even what we had in the middle of the 3DS life. Like, I don't know if you guys remember this thing when it came out. Like, the idea behind it, essentially, was like, hey, let's do an evolution of the DS. It wasn't like a revolutionary thing like DS. It's just further along. And then they're just like, well, what does that mean? We don't really know. Let's just throw things against the wall and see what sticks. So it had like the 3D. It had augmented reality, which never really was used for anything except Face Raiders and I guess that Chibi Robo Photo Finder game. It had like a bunch of stuff that would be like, oh, you got into Nintendo with the DS, right? So here's a sequel to Brain Age. Here's a sequel at launch to Nintendogs, which kind of bombed. Here's another new Super Mario Bros. Like early on, it was so like weird mix of like, we're going to make it super premium and high end for the gamers and it'll have extra inputs for the gamers. But then all the casuals that we got in with the DS are going to keep loving it and buy this $250 device. That then, as I'm sure you guys remember, they had to drop the price significantly by like $70 because it basically underperformed, and we got all these ambassador games. And then from there, like it just kind of turned into just another DS. Like the 3D wasn't necessary for most games. Like it was cool. The diorama for Luigi's Mansion I thought was really cool. 3D Land was actually used it somewhat. It's probably the only game that did. But then, they released 3D World. And it's the exact same type of game, but without the 3D, and it was fine. Like, it didn't need the 3D. So it's really interesting to just see what this was and what it turned into. In terms of, like, they wanted it to basically be DS2. It ended up selling about half of DS's numbers, which is still very good. It still sold 76 million. But, the DS sold 154 million. So it was definitely, like, the Super Nintendo to the NES's, or to the DS's NES. But it was interesting to just see over 9 years how it morphed, at least from my perspective, because it wasn't like they had a set game plan and stuck to it. They definitely were kind of flying by the seat of their pants with this one. But I like, what were some of your guys's, like, do you have any favorite games of the 3DS or any like memories or any things you like that you wish maybe they did keep alive? Like 3D maybe could have panned out into something better, or AR could have become something bigger, or...
Do you have any thoughts on it, Kevin? First, I do have some, but
thoughts on the console itself? No, it was a great
or games
to the DS
or the games, anything
game,
really.
Fire Emblem Awakening. I played a bunch of Fire Emblem Awakening for sure. Then possibly after that, Mario Kart 7. Mario Kart 7's a good Mario Kart. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Yeah. But
I'd say it was the best at its time. 8 surpassed it, but 7 I think I liked more than the others.
Right.
Yeah. Right off the gate, I love that the 3DS had Street Fighter 4 because that was around the time where I didn't have a way to play it. Like I bought the version for PC/Mac, and I pretty much had to run it with everything at the minimum settings. So there were no textures, there were no backgrounds, everything was as bare bones as possible and moved in slow motion. So having this on the 3DS and at the time having it be the most updated version of the game, it was pretty amazing. Even the box looked nice. It felt like a very premium product, and it played really well. And it was really, really fun. I had so much fun with that game. But that was like kind of, I guess, what sold me in the beginning. And eventually, because of the 3DS, I also have to thank it for giving me the chance to finally see what all the hubbub was about with Star Fox 64 3D. And then just kind of, playing it without any nostalgia whatsoever, and then just kind of going, yeah, this game isn't as great as people make it seem. And that's kind of like where that game ended. It was just, it's a fun, simple arcade shooter, but I don't know. I think, especially with this game in particular, I feel like their nostalgia for this game is so, like, I don't know, it's like it was like at 110 for anyone that I guess grew up with Star Fox 64.
What's the verbal version of subtweeting someone? Because I feel like you're doing that to me right now.
Being passive aggressive.
What's the? Maybe I feel like he's saying people, but I think he's saying me because he knows how I feel.
Because it's literally everyone. It's not,
okay.
If anything, okay. I don't even think I hear you defend it as much as I feel the other people. Although we did have a actual discussion about it on our alpha version of the podcast.
And we did eventually with Kevin. The very first time Kevin was on the show was our episode Talking Points, and Star Fox was one of the points. Was one of the debate topics. So,
but I mean, say what you will about the game. I mean, I did enjoy playing it, but yeah, I didn't think of it as great as it was for other people. But anyway, that's not the point. But I guess as far as it's like, I don't know, just like some of my favorite games on the 3DS, there were just so many. Like, we had two what I thought was really, really great core Ace Attorney games. Unfortunately, they were digital only, but like I still got to experience them on the 3DS. The animations were great. It was this jump to 3D, and it just handled it really, really well within the in-game animations and the animations done by Bone, the people that do the animation for Mouse Cycle 100, I believe. Ooh. So it was a good studio to handle it. They always look. It pretty much looked like if they made an Ace Attorney anime film, that's what it would look like. The actual anime is based on, it's made by A1 Studio, which does Your Lie in April, so you'd think it'd be amazing, but I don't know, you could tell that's not where the A-team was when they were animating it. Mm-hmm. It's fine. I might revisit that anime, but I definitely ignored it for a long time because the quality just felt very cheap compared to others. But yeah, I mean, 3DS is where I played Tales of Abyss, a really awesome Tales game, and it was just crazy playing a full-on Tales game on the Switch. I mean, on the 3DS. As I've already mentioned, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate was the next Monster Hunter that I played to death, and it was on the 3DS, so the fact that I played it on a normal 3DS for that matter, while my brother played it on a new 3DS, like, it was crazy just seeing the difference in quality between the two. But, it was awesome. It didn't feel like it had any compromises, which, like, if that's the case, I feel super confident about any Monster Hunter game on the Switch. Obviously, you had Smash Brothers, which,
Smash 4.
The fact that Smash was on the 3DS, and the fact that it was exclusive to the 3DS for a few months before the Wii U version came out, like, it was just really fun. It was just fun that everyone was playing it, even if the controls weren't that great. On the 3DS, we made it work. I mean, it almost got to the point where a few months into the Wii U version, we were so perfectly fine playing with the 3DS as a controller because sometimes there weren't enough controllers to go around, and we would still do fine because we were just that used to it. But, and to this day, like, Smash 3DS still has one of the best modes, I feel, Smash Run. That mode, I feel, just had like one iteration away from being perfect, which was actually having the other players you're playing against on the map you're running around in Smash Run. But
I do wish they brought that to Ultimate. It seems like such a missed opportunity.
But
even as DLC now, like.
Yeah, but that's just a relic of the past. That mode would have been really fun. That's like a mode I would have legitimately put time into if it was still there. Mario Tennis Open, I surprisingly played a ton, which was really, really fun. I think it was the first Mario Tennis that got me back into it, especially after Mario Ultra Smash, which, as everyone knows, Nintendo barely put any thought into it. Also, like,
that reminds me, Mario Golf World Tour. I love that game.
That was also really good on the 3DS. Yeah. And then there was Rhythm Thief, which just came out of nowhere and was a nice surprise for me because it was by Sega. It was kind of a mix of like the presentation of Professor Layton with, it's a puzzle game with a very, I guess, very story driven, but it was all rhythm games, and they all run from games you would see in Elite Beat Agents, games you would see in Rhythm Heaven, and other more unique kind of games. So it was really fun, and I'm really glad that came out. I even wrote a whole article around it back in the early days of Random Nintendo.
And it came out the same month or within a month of Theater Rhythm, the Final Fantasy rhythm game. And it was weird because that whole summer was just like rhythm games on the 3DS. Like, like there wasn't a ton yet. So it's funny that like two of the biggest games
I know
of the summer were
Elite Beat Agent sequel on the 3DS, which is unfortunate. But as Jason said, we did get Rhythm Thief, which, while it doesn't quite fill in the gap, I mean, between that and Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, oh man, Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix, like, just so good. But we also had our Animal Crossing, which I feel like the handheld ones, like after we played the heck out of World, City Folk barely got any game, barely got touched. But then New Leaf came out, and my brother and I and a friend, we played that game a lot. It was really fun, just visiting each other's islands. Like, this was definitely what I've definitely played New Leaf more than whatever this new one is called, New Horizons so far. But I'm sure New Horizons will get there eventually. I think it's just I'm just busier now. I mean, I feel like it's like the main difference.
I feel like New Leaf, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like New Leaf was like the watershed game when Animal Crossing went from being like kind of this niche thing to like a mainstream thing. Obviously, New Horizons took it to New Horizons, but no, like I really do think like
it was its
when they brought in Isabelle,
awakening.
Like,
it felt like
and then Isabelle becoming like a mascot.
No pun intended. I was comparing it to Fire Emblem Awakening. It was Fire Emblem's Awakening. I mean, Animal Crossing's Awakening.
That too, though, because Fire Emblem was going to be a dead franchise in the West if Awakening didn't take off, and the 3DS crowd kept Fire Emblem alive and made it into what it is today.
Yeah. And finally, I guess if it wasn't, I guess it wasn't obvious because I didn't say so, but I've pretty much just been running to, I guess, like my top 10 like
your
3DS
most played
games.
Yep.
Yeah, my most played. But Sun and Moon, surprisingly, I did play that one a lot, but Pokemon X, I feel, was like my after Diamond, because Diamond was the one that got me into the Pokemon franchise. Like, at least, on the game side, as competitive as I was at the time. Then I took a long hiatus until Pokemon X, and that one got me back into it full force. And my brother and I played the heck out of that game. It was definitely my peak competitiveness, and I don't think any has matched that. Like, I kind of got into it, and actually, I barely played Ruby and Sapphire, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I transferred my Pokemon to Sun and Moon, so they're all in there, my Pokemon from Pokemon X, but I haven't really played it, and I haven't even bought in Sword and Shield yet. So, I don't know. I honestly don't even know what's going to happen at this point. Like, I am not any more compelled to get the DLC. Maybe I'll just wait till the next generation at this point. But, I don't know. I think I'd be okay letting Pokemon rest where it is now. Unless, they bring back Chatot. That will change everything, but yeah.
Maybe going to like the fatigue break that you went through with Monster Hunter. It's Pokemon's turn.
Yeah, I think this time I just needed a longer break. Before it was just one generation, maybe it's still too soon. Yeah. Also, time, because we only have so much time in this world.
Time is fine, yes.
Yeah, but then finally, like the last two games that just like really surprised me in a really positive way. First, definitely Resident Evil Revelations. Like that game single-handedly brought me onto the Resident Evil franchise, because before that I had barely touched them or even cared about them. I just knew about them because I love Capcom, but I didn't really play many Resident Evil games, if any, by then. But then I played Revelations, and I didn't realize it was going to be like a fully fledged like Resident Evil game, like on the 3DS. Like it could have easily been a console game, and it was eventually, but it just worked so well with the 3D. The campaign was lengthy. It was actually scary. It's like it pretty much did for Resident Evil what Resident Evil 2 did, the remake did for, I guess, after the Part 5 and Part 6, or I guess even you could say Resident Evil 7. Like it was so that game.
It did for Resident Evil what Resident Evil did for Resident Evil.
Yeah, later on, like it was.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
It was the first game in its franchise after a long time that people were like, go back to your roots. It make it feel like an actual Resident Evil game. And the multiplayer, like the challenge mode, I played through that with a friend, and we did it on the hardest difficulty, and it was so hard, but extremely fun to run through it with someone else after you beat the game. Because Resident Evil games they're scary and stressful the first playthrough, but then you start wanting to do faster playthroughs. Like the games are somehow designed so that they're still just as fun, if not very fun, or even more fun in different ways to go through multiple times. And like the very, very last level, like of the challenge mode, because it's way after you beat the game multiple times, like is to essentially run through the entirety of the full game in one go, like nonstop, back to back. They essentially cut out all the cutscenes, remixed all the enemies. Some, in many cases, added way more and added bosses to areas that didn't used to have bosses, or just multiple instances of that boss in the same area. But you do it with a friend, and I mean, it's hectic, it's stressful, it's chaotic, it's fun. And then at the end, you fight like 2 of the final bosses at the same time, which is nuts. But yeah, thanks to Resident Evil, that game definitely got me as big a fan that I am now, to the point that I even considered buying I think like almost $200 Leon 1/6 scale figure, the same size as like a Kratos, which I still might get, but I think we need to let space, and I'm like in the middle of like reorganizing and restructuring some of my working space in and out of the house, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, definitely the final game that definitely impacted my gaming career tremendously was the announcement of Layton versus Phoenix on the 3DS. That game, like that game alone, like introduced me to the Professor Layton franchise, because I had already loved Ace Attorney, but having a crossover with that one, and then thinking like, well, this game is, I think it came out like almost 2 years after it got announced in the US, because there was like a whole song and dance of its delays and whatever. But because of that, I had enough time to play through 2.5 of the Layton games, and I fell in love with those games. Like, they were really fun. They were very similar to Ace Attorney, which is why I feel they made a nice pairing. And when I eventually got around to beating this game, like, it was as great as I was hoping it would be. Like, the pairing of the 2 games was awesome. Like, you would sometimes switch through Layton style gameplay and Phoenix style gameplay, and you would even go through Phoenix style gameplay as Layton, or Layton style gameplay as Phoenix. So you get to hear and listen to, I guess, their interactions. They would switch partners a lot of the time, because, you know, it's one of those games that you get a lot out of it if you're already invested in the universe. So it's about the interactions and how the characters react to those situations. And the mystery was really well done. Like, everything about the game is just awesome, and it feels like a miracle that it even got made. So yeah, 3DS definitely a very important system in our short time that we could experience games in this universe.
You know what's really interesting, though, is if you marry what I was saying about how the 3DS kind of went through multiple identities with the lineup of games you just mentioned, I think the lasting legacy of the 3DS is really it had an incredibly robust lineup of games for pretty much any type of game. Like, it started with the kind of more like stuff that traditionally would have been on, let's say, the PSP, and then it got into some other stuff, and, you know, all the big dogs were there, the multiple Zeldas. Like, I love A Link Between Worlds, one of my favorite games on 3DS, the multiple Marios, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart, multiple Kirby's, multiple Fire Emblems. But I think one of the cool things was, like, there was also this experimental side on 3DS. Like, there was, you know, stuff like Rhythm Thief from Sega, but also, like, within Nintendo, you had Kid Icarus Uprising and that wacky stand, which, you know, for Nintendo, that's more like, all right, Sakurai, run wild. That was Sakurai's Death Stranding. Just like, do whatever you want. We'll support it however you need it. Just go. And then, like, all the little stuff they did, like on the eShop, you know, games like Pocket Card Jockey or the Pushmo series or Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, where you actually had to, like, haggle real money in a game, or like Tamagotchi Life and the idea of how your Miis all, like, interact with one another. And then the one I really want to highlight, Street Pass. I would say, looking back, that Street Pass is probably my single favorite feature of the 3DS. I think the concept of you have it in your pocket, you're going places, the games you're playing can exchange items or Miis or other things with other players and what they're playing, and you kind of build community in a physical sense, but it also has kind of like it's like a physical thing, but it's also kind of online where it's like somewhat anonymous. Like, I thought that was a really interesting idea. I thought it was really fun to get new puzzle pieces and meet Miis and go to Nintendo's booths at events and have, like, the Gold Pants Miyamoto Mii or that sort of thing. Or, you know, get new things in your game, get special puzzles, get special puzzle pieces. It just felt like this very, like, it made the 3DS this kind of communal thing, even though, you know, it wasn't necessarily communal in a real sense. It's not like everyone knew everyone, but you had, you know, thousands of Miis on your system. You had little games that came out later that had the Miis do different things. Like, oh, you Street Pass with someone cool. They'll fight this RPG battle for you. They'll, you know, help you, like, build this robot, or, like, whatever the things were, like, or maintain this house. I remember all of them. But, like, they ended up having a lot of those games. And I think that sort of stuff, combined with all the big games they had, like, it was a very good lineup of games on the 3DS. And if you just look at our podcast, because we started 6 months, 7 months after the 3DS launch, and we went the entire life of it. If you just go any given episode in those 9 years, there's probably an interesting 3DS game talked about there. Up until, the Switch really took over in the last year or two here. But, like, it was for a long time. The 3DS always had something going on. It could be a major release. It could be a minor release. It could just be a new Street Pass puzzle. But there was, like, that system had a lot of good games and a lot of crazy experimental things and a lot of very mainstream things and a lot, like Majora's Mask 3D, okay. But, like, it was all on a single device, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Mm.
So I thought, like, looking back, it's probably one of the most robust, diversified collection of good games on a single Nintendo platform. Like, the Wii had a ton, and there were very good games there, but there's a lot of third-party shovelware. The DS had a ton, but, like, My Baby isn't something that you're going to remember the DS for having, where you raise a small child. But, like, the 3DS, I'd say the vast majority of the games on it were good or interesting or worth at least having a discussion about. And then, coupling that with things like Street Pass, where it really brought the 3DS community together, I thought it was a really cool system for that. Even if it did have an identity crisis for pretty much half of its life before it finally locked in on just being the Nintendo handheld. But, yeah, that's my sort of takeaway with the 3DS, is it went on a weird path, but it resulted in probably the best selection of games that Nintendo platform's had in a while. So, yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about, like, that versus other systems, but I was very happy with the lineup looking back at it all these years.
I didn't play much of it.
Sounds like we sounded very positive on it, but
yeah, I didn't play much of it, but it was a solid console, a solid handheld.
I wish they did Street Pass on Switch.
Like,
it seems like such a weird miss. They what?
I wish they did PictoChat on Switch.
Oh, I know.
If you think about it, PictoChat was so ahead of its time. Nintendo's very ahead of its time with a lot of stuff. PictoChat was just, group chat before group chat blew up. All the augmented reality stuff on the 3DS launch, like, that's what Apple's now trying to sell with the new iPhones that will, when, like, the iPhone 12 is announced with this LiDAR sensor for better augmented reality. Like, think about face rares and think about how Pokemon Go blew up 5 years later. Like, they kind of hit the trends a little ahead of the curve, but because of that, they're not quite fully developed yet. They're not matured enough yet to really work, but they had it all there. It was all on the 3DS.
Yeah.
On the 3DS.
So RIP Nintendo 3DS, Nintendo 3DS XL,
well,
new Nintendo 3DS, new Nintendo 3DS XL. Oh, I'm sorry.
Damn it.
You'll come up with something. But yeah, there was a lot of them. The first one still is an ugly design, kind of, with the cake layout, but they got better. But anyway, I guess unless you guys have anything else, that pretty much does it for this episode.
I guess that's all I have, unfortunately.
I mean, we only have so
I
much
am
time.
really sorry that I don't have.
It's okay. It's okay. We only have so much time in this world, so maybe it's good that we stop here.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Might as well use the rest of the day for other things because, as you said, we're not here for long, so.
We're not. So with that in mind, for people who want to continue to listen to us with their valuable time that they have left on this earth.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. I mean, we only have
so
much time in this world, and you chose to spend 2 of those hours listening to us about how much time we have left in this world.
Weekly now, too. Yeah, because we have our next Quarantine Chronicles sub show.
About that weekly. Oh, you meant
what?
Yeah.
No, they're doing it now weekly for us, yeah. But because we have the next Quarantine Chronicles, which is our non-Nintendo show, the non-Nintendo stuff, on October 4th, which is next Sunday. And then our next episode of Normal Round Nintendo is October 11th, which will include, among other things, presumably our takes on Super Mario Bros. 35, because that comes out before then. So, so we appreciate, in light of how little your time is on this planet. But to make sure that you maximize hearing our show without wasting your time, you can subscribe to us on every podcast app. So you don't have to go look for us. It'll come to you. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, you name it. And we're also on YouTube, randomnintendo.com. You can follow us on Twitter at randomnintendo. Another way to not spend your time looking for us when we can come to you. And we're also individually on Twitter. I'm JSR7, Angel's Wero, WEIRO_O. Kevin is KVN Gomi. And I guess that pretty much does it. Kevin, final word?
I found an Arc System Works generator for the. You guys know how Arc System. Have you guys ever played an Arc System Works game?
I want to.
Like
pretty
one
sure
or
I
two.
have. I just don't know.
It's like at the beginning of each round. It's like always some weird text, like the wheel of fate is turning, and then it's like fight, I found a generator that does that. So let me just press start on this and see. The final word is, I'm not reading that one. Can't escape from crossing Michigan. So imagine a fighting voice. Can't escape from crossing Michigan. Fight.